All right, welcome to another deep dive, everybody. Today we're taking a look at something that I think a lot of you are going to find pretty useful, especially if you're trying to get really comfortable with everyday English conversation. We've got a list here of 50 words, and it's being billed as like the essentials. So we're going to break these down, figure out why they matter so much, and how you can start using them like a pro.
Yeah. I mean, think about it, right? If you can master these 50 words, that's a huge jump in your ability to communicate in all kinds of daily situations.
Exactly. And what's cool is they've organized these words into 5 categories that really do cover a lot of ground. So we've got words related to your daily routine and productivity, work and business stuff, navigating all that technology and social media, the language of shopping and money, and of course, expressing your emotions in social life.
And that's the key here, right? We want to go beyond just knowing the definition of a word. It's about understanding the subtle ways they get used, like when is it appropriate to say postpone versus delay? We'll get into all that.
Perfect. Okay, so first up, let's tackle this daily routine and productivity category. And I gotta say, the first word on the list is schedule, which at first glance might seem kind of basic, right?
You'd think so. But here's the thing. Schedule is more than just a list of times and appointments. It's really about how we structure our time and our commitments. Like saying, I always check my schedule in the morning. It's not just about knowing what's next. It's a sign that you're proactive, organized. You're not just reacting to things, you're planning ahead.
It's almost like a statement of intent for your day, huh?
Totally. And you know what's kind of fun? The word schedule itself, way back when, it literally meant a little piece of paper, a scroll with writing on it. So it's come a long way.
That is cool. All right, well, speaking of things that structure our day, how about the dreaded commute? And of course, we can't forget its best friend, rush hour.
Oh man, don't even get me started. I feel like everyone has a commute horror story.
Right, it's like a universal experience, especially if you live in a city.
And those two words really capture that, commute and rush hour. They speak to this whole shared experience of time spent traveling, often stressed, sometimes delayed. Like when you hear someone say, my commute takes 30 minutes, but traffic is terrible during rush hour, you instantly get it. You know exactly what they're dealing with.
Totally. It's like we're all united by this common enemy. Okay, let's move on to something a little more manageable, appointment.
All right, so with an appointment, we're talking about that specific time you've set aside for something. It could be a meeting, a doctor's visit, whatever. It signals that you've made a commitment to be somewhere at a particular time. It's more formal than just saying, I'm meeting a friend. It's got more weight.
Yeah, you can't just casually blow off an appointment. There are usually consequences.
Right. And that brings us to our next word, which is often linked to those consequences, deadline.
Oh yeah, deadline. Yeah. That word can trigger some stress for sure.
No doubt. It's that hard stop, that non-negotiable date and time by which something absolutely has to be done. It drives us, motivates us, and sometimes freaks us out a little.
For real. Like if someone tells you the deadline for this project is Friday, you know it's time to get serious.
Exactly. But of course, to meet those deadlines, to get things done effectively, you need to be productive. You need to tackle those tasks.
Right. And those are words we like to hear, right? They imply progress, achievement. It's that good feeling of getting stuff done.
It is. But it's interesting how these words productive and task, they kind of go hand in hand, but they mean different things to different people. Like for some, being productive is all about quantity. How many things can I check off my list? But for others, it's more about quality, about focusing on the most important stuff and doing it well.
That's so true. And figuring out what's most important is where priority comes in, right?
Exactly. It's about making those strategic choices, deciding what needs to be done first, what can wait, what can be delegated. Like saying, my priority is to finish this report. It shows you're focused on the right things, the things that are really going to move the needle.
And then, of course, sometimes even with best intentions and priorities, life happens and you have to postpone things.
Happens all the time, right? Postpone is a great word because it acknowledges that change is inevitable. Like, we had to postpone the meeting. It's a nice way of saying, okay, we're pushing this back, but we're still committed to it.
It's way better than just saying cancel.
Way better. All right, and last but not least in this category, we have reminder.
Oh, reminder. Our digital savior.
Seriously, we all rely on reminders to keep us on track. Think about it. Without that little ding on your phone, would you remember all your appointments, deadlines, birthdays, everything?
Probably not. Reminder is our external brain, helping us stay organized and on top of things.
Exactly. And it's such a simple word, but so powerful. Okay, ready to move on to the world of work and business.
Let's do it.
All right, first up is conference. And I think it's interesting how this word has evolved, especially with the rise of virtual events.
Right. It used to be all about those big fancy gatherings, but now a conference can be online, accessible to anyone, anywhere.
And even though the format has changed, the core idea is the same, right? It's about people coming together to learn, to network, to share ideas about a particular field or industry.
Totally. It's still all about connection and collaboration.
Okay, next we've got interview, which I think it's safe to say can be a pretty nerve-wracking experience.
For sure. Whether you're the one being interviewed or the one conducting the interview, there's definitely pressure involved.
And for good reason, right? An interview is that crucial step in the hiring process where you're assessing someone's qualifications, their personality, their fit for the role. It's a big deal for both the candidate and the company.
And that's why it's so important to have a stellar resume or CV to showcase your experience and skills.
Right. Now, I know some people get tripped up on the difference between a resume and a CV, but in most cases, you can use them interchangeably. A resume is generally a concise overview of your work history and qualifications, tailored for a specific job.
And a CV is more common in academic settings, and it tends to be more comprehensive, including all your publications, presentations, that kind of thing.
Exactly. But either way, the key is to keep it updated and ready to go because you never know when an opportunity might arise.
And once you've landed that job, feedback becomes super important for your growth and development.
Oh, absolutely. Feedback is that constructive criticism, the advice, the suggestions that help us improve our work, our skills, our understanding.
And it's not always easy to receive, right?
Sometimes not. But the best leaders and professionals, they actively seek out feedback and use it to get better.
Now, sometimes in a work setting, you need to engage in a little bit of negotiation to get what you want, whether it's a higher salary or a better project.
Right. Negotiation is all about finding that common ground, that win-win solution through discussion and compromise. It can be a tricky process, but it's a valuable skill to have for sure.
And of course, one of the things many people are negotiating for is a promotion.
Yes. A promotion is that recognition of your hard work and achievements. It's that step up the ladder with more responsibility and hopefully more money.
It can be a huge motivator, for sure. Now, let's not forget about the people we work with every day, our coworkers.
Yes, our coworkers. They can make or break your work experience.
So true. Having positive relationships with your coworkers can make all the difference in terms of your job satisfaction and overall productivity.
Absolutely. A supportive team environment is invaluable. Okay, and now for the not-so-fun part of working overtime.
Ugh, yeah. Overtime can be a necessary evil sometimes, especially when deadlines are looming.
It's all about balance, right? Some overtime here and there might be okay, but if it becomes a regular thing, it can lead to burnout and negatively impact your work-life balance.
For sure. All right, before we move on, I want to touch on one more important word in this category: contract.
Oh yes, the contract. It's the foundation of any formal agreement in the business world. It lays out the terms and conditions, the expectations, the rights and responsibilities of all parties involved.
It's there to protect everyone and make sure everyone is on the same page.
Exactly. Okay, ready to switch gears and talk tech.
Let's do it. It feels like the world of technology and social media is constantly evolving, and the language we use to talk about it is changing too.
You're not kidding. But some things remain constant, like the never-ending need for updates.
Oh yeah, it seems like every app and device is constantly begging for an update.
And you know, it's for good reason. Updates are all about keeping things current, fixing bugs, improving security. It's important to stay on top of them.
Totally. But let's talk about the really fundamental actions we all do online. Upload and download. I mean, we're doing these things all the time, right?
Countless times a day. Upload is all about sending your stuff out into the digital world. Pictures, videos, documents, whatever. You're transferring it from your device to a server, to the cloud, to a website.
And then download is bringing stuff from the internet to your device.
Exactly. It's how we get new apps, music, movies, all that good stuff.
And of course, all of this is happening while we're online.
Right, right. Online is such a ubiquitous word now. It basically means being connected to the internet, plugged into this whole digital world.
And while we're online, we're often bombarded with notifications.
Oh, the dreaded notifications. They can be helpful, but they can also be a major distraction.
Tell me about it. It's like a constant stream of pings, buzzes, and alerts vying for our attention.
And it's all thanks to Wi-Fi, that magical wireless technology that connects us to the internet without any cables.
I feel like free Wi-Fi has become like the most sought-after amenity everywhere you go.
It totally has. All right, so once we're online and connected, what do? We search for stuff.
Right. Search is how we navigate the vastness of the internet, how we find answers, explore new topics, discover new things.
It's like having a library at your fingertips, and you can find anything you want with just a few keywords.
But to protect all that valuable information online, we need a strong password. It's our first line of defense against hackers and security breaches.
Absolutely. A good password is crucial for cybersecurity.
Oh yeah, cybersecurity has become a huge issue these days as more and more of our lives are online.
It's all about protecting our data, our privacy, our online identities from those who would do us harm.
Definitely. Okay, last word in this tech-heavy category, stream.
Streaming. It's how we consume so much of our entertainment these days.
It's so convenient, right? You can watch movies, TV shows, listen to music, all without having to download anything.
And the choices are endless. It's completely changed the way we think about media.
Okay, ready to do a little shopping? All right, well, first word that comes to mind when I think about shopping is bargain.
Who doesn't love a good bargain? It's that feeling of getting something you want at a price that's way lower than you expected.
It's like a little victory.
It is. But sometimes, of course, things don't work out and you need to get a refund.
Right. A refund is basically getting your money back when you return something, whether it's defective, doesn't fit, or you just changed your mind.
It's a good thing to keep in mind as a consumer.
And to make sure we're not spending more than we can afford, it's important to have a budget.
A budget is that plan you make for your money, figuring out how much you can spend on different things each month. It helps you stay on track financially.
And to keep track of all those purchases, we rely on receipts.
Right. The little pieces of paper that prove you bought something, keep them. You never know when you might need them.
Especially if you need to return something and get that refund.
Exactly. Okay, and speaking of saving money, who can resist a discount?
Not me. A discount is like a little gift from the shopping gods. It's that percentage off the regular price that makes you feel like you're getting a steal.
Totally. It's a powerful motivator. But of course, the flip side of spending is debt.
Ugh, debt. It's something we all try to avoid.
Debt is basically owing money to someone else. Whether it's a bank, a credit card company, a friend, whatever. It's a burden that can weigh you down.
And to show our appreciation for good service, we often leave a tip.
Yes. A tip is that extra bit of money you give to someone who's provided a service, like a waiter, a bartender, a hairdresser. It's a nice way to say thank you.
And of course, when we're out shopping or paying for things, we usually need our trusty wallet.
Right. It's where we keep our cash, our cards, our ID. You don't want to leave home without it.
And the person we interact with when we're ready to pay is the cashier.
Right. The cashier is the one who processes our transactions, rings up our purchases, and hands us that all-important receipt.
And to help us carry all those purchases, we use a shopping cart.
Especially at the grocery store. Trying to manage a big grocery haul without a shopping cart would be a nightmare.
Okay, ready to explore some emotions.
Bring it on.
All right, well, let's start with a positive one. Excited.
Excited. It's that feeling of anticipation, of looking forward to something good that's going to happen. Like, I'm so excited for my vacation.
It's a great feeling. Of course, not all emotions are so positive. Sometimes we feel nervous, especially when we're facing a challenge or an uncertain situation.
Nervous is totally normal, right? It's that feeling of anxiety, of butterflies in your stomach that comes up when you're outside your comfort zone.
But when we overcome those nerves and believe in ourselves, we feel confident.
Confidence is so important, right? It's that belief in your own abilities, that feeling of self-assurance that allows you to take risks and achieve your goals.
But let's be real, there are times when we all feel a little embarrassed.
Oh, for sure. Embarrassed is that feeling of awkwardness, of wanting to hide under a rock when something goes wrong or you make a mistake, especially in a social situation.
And when things don't go our way, when we face obstacles, we can feel frustrated.
Frustration is that feeling of being stuck, of wanting something to be different, of not being able to control the situation. It can be pretty annoying.
Definitely. But on the flip side, it's so important to cultivate feelings of gratitude.
Gratitude is all about appreciating the good things in our lives, the people, the experiences, the little things. It's a powerful emotion that can really shift your perspective.
And sometimes, despite all the good things, we can still feel lonely.
Loneliness is a tough one. It's that feeling of isolation, of disconnection from others. It's important to recognize those feelings and reach out for support.
Absolutely. But a great antidote to loneliness is being curious, is engaging with the world and learning new things.
Curiosity is what keeps us growing, keeps us asking questions, keeps us exploring. It's a wonderful quality to nurture.
And then, of course, we all need a little downtime, a little laziness now and then.
It's okay to be lazy sometimes. It's all about finding that balance between work and rest, between being productive and allowing yourself to chill out.
Exactly. And finally, one of the best feelings in the world, proud.
Pride, that feeling of accomplishment, of satisfaction, of knowing you've done something well, it's something to savor.
It's a great motivator, too. Now, before we wrap up, I wanted to share this little dialogue that was included in the list of words. It says, "Did you update your phone?" "Yes, but I forgot my password and had to reset it." "Oh no, I hope you didn't lose your data." "No worries, I backed up everything online."
Perfect example of how these words we've been talking about show up in everyday conversation, right? You've got update, password, online. It's like a little tech drama unfolding.
Exactly. All right, so there you have it, folks. We've gone through these 50 essential words, explored their meanings, and hopefully given you a better understanding of how they're used in real-life situations.
We've covered everything from your daily routine to your work life, from the digital worlds to the realm of emotions. And the key takeaway here is that language is all about context.
Right. It's not just about knowing the definition of a word. It's about understanding the subtle nuances, the different ways they can be used depending on the situation.
Exactly. And the more you expose yourself to real English conversation, the more you'll start to pick up on those nuances.
So keep practicing, keep listening, keep talking.
And for our final thought, we encourage you to think about your own daily interactions. What words do you find yourself using the most? What words do you struggle with? And what are some words you'd like to add to your vocabulary?
It's all about making language your own, finding the words that work best for you, and using them to express yourself confidently and effectively.
So keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, have fun with it. Okay, so this is going to be interesting. You sent in a beginner's podcast script about 50 common English words, and I think we were both kind of like 50 common words. What's there to deep dive into?
Yeah, right.
So
that's kind of the fun of it.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. I mean, we're not going to just go through a vocabulary list.
Right.
We're going to explore like how these fundamental words shape how we understand the world around us and how we interact with each other, and hopefully give you those aha moments along the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's easy to take these kind of foundational elements of language for granted.
Sure.
But when we do pause and examine them, we can actually uncover some pretty surprising aspects of how we communicate and how we understand the world around us.
Yeah, and what's so fascinating about it is how much information and nuance we can pack into even the simplest words.
Exactly.
Like a single word can convey so much.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's unpack this a little bit. The first set of words in your material focuses on the morning routine. So we have wake up, that moment when our eyes open to a new day.
Right.
Then comes the dreaded or sometimes welcomed alarm.
Yep.
You know, sometimes it's a savior. Sometimes it's like, not that sound again.
Right.
Then we brush. Pretty universal act of hygiene, I hope.
Hopefully, yeah.
Then we have shower to get us feeling fresh and ready for the day.
Yep.
And finally breakfast, fuel to kickstart our day. And the script gives like these very straightforward meanings, like wake up, open your eyes in the morning, and super simple examples like I wake up at 7 a.m. every day, or I usually have fruit for breakfast.
Yeah.
Very basic stuff.
Right. And I think what strikes me is how significant this small collection of morning routine words is.
Yeah.
I mean, they represent the sequence of almost ritualistic actions that many of us perform without even thinking.
Yeah, it's true.
Like we don't even think about it. We just do.
We're just on autopilot.
Totally on autopilot. And think about how those 5 words alone, wake up, alarm, brush, shower, breakfast, can kind of sketch a basic outline of the start of someone's day.
Yeah.
It really highlights how fundamental these actions and these words are to just basic human experience.
It's like it makes you realize how these like seemingly basic terms are kind of like the starting point for describing, a very personal part of our day. So think about your own morning for a moment. How would you use these 5 words? Wake up, alarm, brush, shower, and breakfast to tell someone about your morning routine.
Okay, sure. So
What little details or individual habits could you convey using just those terms?
So I actually wake up before my alarm every day.
Yeah.
So I don't need to use the word alarm.
Wow.
I wake up, I brush my teeth, and I hop in the shower.
Okay.
I usually skip breakfast, though.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. So let's move on to the next category here. We have words related to work and school. And these words are office, a place of business. A lot of professional work gets done there. Computer, an absolutely essential tool in many workplaces and schools these days.
Yeah.
Meeting, a gathering for discussion, decision making.
Sure.
Homework, those tasks assigned for study outside of class.
Yep.
And teacher, the guide in the learning environment. And again, the script gives these like super simple definitions and examples like, my office is on the 3rd floor, or I need to finish my homework tonight.
Yeah.
So very straightforward stuff.
And what's interesting here is that how these words represent structures and activities that organize a significant portion of many people's lives beyond their personal routines.
It's true.
So we have the personal routine in the morning, and then we go out into the world.
Yeah.
And these are the words that we use to talk about what we're doing out there.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to think about how the traditional understanding of some of these words is also evolving.
Oh,
like even if you don't go to a physical office every day,
right.
You might have a designated workspace at home that you could call your office.
Right. My office is in my bedroom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And homework isn't just for students anymore. A lot of adults engage in continuous learning or professional development.
That's true.
That could fall under that umbrella.
Yeah.
So even if your daily life doesn't perfectly fit these traditional definitions, how might you apply these words office, computer, meeting, homework, teacher to describe your own current activities or learning endeavors?
Well, I think that's the beauty of language is that it's flexible.
It is.
And these seemingly straightforward words can adapt to describe new realities.
That's a great point.
And evolving ways of life.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we'll see kind of throughout this whole deep dive.
Absolutely.
Is how these words are so adaptable.
Yeah.
All right, so next up we have a category that's truly universal: food.
Okay, everybody eats.
The words here are lunch, that midday break for a meal.
Yeah.
Dinner, the evening meal.
Coffee, a very popular caffeinated drink. We both enjoy some coffee.
Absolutely. I'm actually drinking some right now.
As am I. Water, essential for survival.
Yes.
And fruit, a naturally sweet and often healthy food. And again, the definitions are very simple, like lunch, a meal eaten in the middle of the day.
Right.
And the examples are things like, I usually have lunch around 1 p.m.
Yeah.
And drinking enough water is important. So.
Right. And what's really interesting is that regardless of culture or specific dietary habits,
It's true.
everyone interacts with the concepts represented by these words.
That's a great point.
It's a truly unifying vocabulary.
Think about how many times you use these words, lunch, dinner, coffee, water, and fruit in just one day.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably a constant stream of conversation, right?
Probably. Yeah.
What other, perhaps more specific words do you already know that build on this basic vocabulary?
Sure.
For example, instead of just saying fruit, you might say apple.
Right.
Or banana. Or instead of dinner, you might be talking about sushi or pasta. Right. Or enchiladas.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think what that illustrates is how this core vocabulary acts as a foundation upon which we build more detailed and nuanced descriptions as our language skills develop.
Yeah.
And as we need to be more specific.
Absolutely. All right. Our next category takes us to a more personal and intimate sphere: home and family.
Okay.
The words included are house, the place where we live, bedroom, the room where we sleep,
Yeah.
kitchen, a space for preparing food,
Right.
parents, our mother and father, and family, the group of people we are closely related to. And the examples here are quite personal, like my house has a big garden,
Yeah.
or I love spending weekends with my family.
Yeah. And what's interesting about these words is the strong emotional associations they carry.
Absolutely.
House can represent security and comfort.
Yeah,
While family speaks to our deepest connections and a sense of belonging.
it's true.
These aren't just neutral terms. They often evoke really powerful feelings and memories.
They do. And, these words, house, bedroom, kitchen, parents, and family, they really are central to our sense of self and our place in the world. So how do these words resonate with you personally? What kind of feelings or images do they bring to mind?
Oh, well, house for me brings to mind, a feeling of safety
Yeah.
and security. Family, well, my family's spread out all over the place.
Okay.
But it brings to mind a feeling of warmth and connection.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting how even with these simple words,
Right.
Kitchen for someone might be this like sterile modern space, but for someone else it might be this like warm, lived in space with family recipes. And
Absolutely. Yeah, my grandmother's kitchen.
exactly.
Yeah.
So much meaning packed into such simple words.
Yeah.
All right, finally, we arrive at words that describe how we interact with others and spend our free time.
Okay.
This category includes friend, someone we enjoy spending time with, call, a conversation over the phone,
Yep.
message, a written communication, music, something we listen to for enjoyment,
Sure.
and movie, a visual story we watch. And examples from the script are, my best friend's name is Sarah, and do you want to watch a movie tonight?
Yeah, and I think what's interesting about this set of words is how they reflect our social needs
It's true.
and the ways that we seek enjoyment and connection outside of work or school.
Yep.
I mean, these words represent the building blocks of our social lives and our leisure activities.
Yeah, and it's interesting how technology has really shaped the way we use some of these words as well. Like, call now encompasses not just phone conversations,
Right.
but also video chats.
Right. FaceTime?
Exactly. And message can refer to anything from a text to a direct message on social media.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So much has changed,
Yeah.
even in just the last decade or so. So your source material also provided a short practice dialogue, which I think really shows how these words can work together in a natural way. It goes like this. A, what time do you wake up? B, I wake up at 7 a.m., take a shower, and eat breakfast. Then, A, do you drink coffee? B, yes, I drink coffee every morning.
I love how simple and effective that little dialogue is.
It is, right?
It effortlessly weaves together several of the words that we've been talking about to convey really practical information about someone's morning routine and habits.
Yeah.
It's a great illustration of how even a basic vocabulary can facilitate clear and concise communication.
And it really underscores how, these fundamental questions and answers that we use every day
Yeah,
rely on this core set of words.
absolutely.
They're the workhorses of everyday conversation.
They are. And it also highlights the importance of mastering these seemingly simple terms
Yes,
as a foundation for more complex communication.
absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive into what might seem like very basic vocabulary, it's clear that these common English words are really the essential groundwork for how we understand and talk about our daily lives from the moment we wake up to how we connect with a friend. And while they might appear elementary on the surface, understanding and effectively using these core words is really the very first step in broader language learning and confident communication.
Absolutely. And what's fascinating to me is how much meaning and context we can derive from even this relatively small set of words.
Yeah.
It really underscores their fundamental role in our ability to connect with each other and make sense of our experiences.
That's a perfect way to put it. So here's a final thought for you. You think about all the other seemingly simple words that exist beyond these 25 we've explored today. Each one is like a key that unlocks even more possibilities for understanding and expressing yourself.
That's a great way to think about it.
What other areas of basic vocabulary, perhaps words related to feelings, locations, actions, might you be curious to explore next to build on this foundational layer of language?
That's a great question.
Something to think about.
Yeah, I'll have to get back to you on that.
Awesome. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
This was fun.
It was fun. It's amazing how much we got out of 50 common English words.
I know, right?
All right, until next time.
See ya.
Bye. All right, welcome to the deep dive. You know why you're here, right? To get smart fast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We take a mountain of info and dig out the gold. Today's gold mine, 50, count 'em, 50 advanced English words.
All neatly sorted by topic, so no matter what you're into, you'll find something.
That'll make you sound like a total pro. We're going way beyond just, dry dictionary definitions.
Think of it as your express lane to fluency.
We're going to dive deep into how to use these words in everyday life.
And in the professional world, too, we're talking productivity hacks.
Business smarts, tech talk, money matters.
Even, get this, how to understand your own emotions better.
All with these 50 powerhouse words.
Which, by the way, we've pulled from a resource made for advanced English learners.
Meaning, it's designed to help you grasp all the subtle shades of meaning.
We'll break it down category by category.
Giving you examples so you can see exactly how these words work in action.
Our mission,
Simple.
to give you a rock-solid understanding of these words.
And why they matter.
So, ready to dive in?
Let's go.
First up, a topic that hits home for all of us. Productivity and time management.
Oh yeah, time, the ultimate treasure. This is something we all grapple with every single day.
And the better we understand these words, the more we can, master our time, right?
Totally. Our source lays out 10 essential terms. Let's kick things off with efficient.
Okay, efficient. What's the official word?
The definition is doing things in the best way with the least waste.
Like, I use an efficient time management system.
Boom, right there.
I feel like that word efficient, it pops up everywhere. From how factories run to just getting your errands done quickly.
Yeah, it's all about that balance, right? Max output, min input.
You know what comes to mind? That whole Pareto principle.
80% of your results come from just 20% of your efforts.
Exactly. So being efficient is like zeroing in on that powerful 20%.
Love that connection.
Yeah.
And speaking of things that can suck up our time, let's move on to something I'm sure we're all familiar with, procrastination.
Uh-oh, yeah.
Definition, delay doing something.
Right.
Example,
Let me guess. I always procrastinate on big projects.
bingo. Human nature right there.
Oh, so human. We all know that feeling. Putting off the big, scary task, even though it just makes things worse later on.
There's got to be a reason for it though, right?
Well, psychologists talk about this thing called present bias,
Like we value what feels good now more than future reward,
which explains why we end up scrolling through social media instead of tackling that report.
which then forces us to, what's the word? Oh yeah, prioritize. Our next term.
Prioritize, definition.
Focus on the most important things first.
So I need to prioritize my tasks today.
Exactly. Simple idea, but game-changing when you actually put it into practice.
100%. And maybe, just maybe, if we're good at prioritizing, we won't have to,
Multitask so much.
multitask. That's the word.
It means, well, the definition says do multiple things at the same time.
She can multitask while working on her reports? Sure, sounds amazing.
Except, here's the thing. Studies show that true multitasking is, well, kind of a myth.
Wait, really?
Yep. Most of the time, what we're doing is rapidly switching between tasks.
And every time we switch, it costs us focus and efficiency.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So ironically, trying to juggle too many things at once might make you less.
Productive.
That's the one, meaning getting a lot done.
I had a very productive morning. Makes you think. Maybe focusing on your top priorities and ditching the multitasking frenzy actually leads to better results.
Now you're talking. And if you do manage to become super productive, there might come a point where you need to
Delegate.
delegate it is
Definition.
to assign work to others,
As in, a good leader knows how to delegate tasks.
which means recognizing that you can't do it all yourself.
So true. Trying to be a superhero just leads to feeling
Overwhelmed.
overwhelmed. Yep. Meaning feeling stressed with too much work.
I feel overwhelmed with my responsibilities. Been there. It's a sign, though. A sign that something's got to change.
Like maybe how you're prioritizing.
Oh, what you need to delegate. See how these words, they all kind of connect, It's a cycle.
Poor prioritizing leads to overwhelm, which then makes it hard to be productive.
Whereas effective delegation and focus help you
Accomplish.
accomplish
What's the definition?
to successfully complete something.
I accomplished all my goals this year. Ah, that feeling.
The best. And when you consistently nail those accomplishments,
You're on your way to a healthy?
work-life balance,
That's the one. Beating.
the right mix between work and personal life.
As in, maintaining work-life balance is important for mental health. Finding that sweet spot,
It's a constant dance for sure. So you see, these productivity and time management words, they're not just words.
They're like concepts that shape how we live our lives.
They really are. Makes you think, right?
Yeah.
How many of these terms hit a nerve for you in your own daily grind?
Now let's switch gears and head into the world of business and all things professional.
A whole new playing field. And mastering these words,
Can really make a difference, whether you're running your own show.
or climbing the corporate ladder,
Absolutely. This vocabulary is all about understanding how organizations work.
and communicating effectively.
So what's our first word in this category?
Let's start with entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur. Love that word.
Definition: a person who starts a business.
He became an entrepreneur at 22.
That's the dream for a lot of people nowadays.
Yeah. The entrepreneurial spirit is definitely having a moment.
To thrive in that world, though, you got to be
Innovative.
innovative. You got it. Meaning introducing new ideas.
The company is known for its innovative technology. That ability to think outside the box is pure gold in today's fast-changing landscape.
Couldn't agree more. And sometimes those new ideas need a little
Negotiation. Definition.
Discussion to reach an agreement.
Nailed it. The example sentence is,
The salary negotiation went well.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah, doesn't it? Whether it's about money, resources, or deadlines, being able to negotiate win-win solutions.
Is crucial in any professional setting.
For sure. And you know what else helps? Being
Sweetie.
strategic.
Birthday.
Strategic. Meaning, let's see, well planned for success.
So, we need a strategic approach to marketing.
Right. It's about having that long-term vision,
Thinking several steps ahead.
like a chess game. Then there's the whole world of
Networking.
networking, such a buzzword.
But so important. What's the official definition?
Meeting people for business or career growth.
Networking is essential for career success. Couldn't agree more. Expanding your circle.
Making those connections that benefit everyone.
It's all about building relationships. But, when you're out there networking,
I gotta show them.
you're
Competent,
competent indeed.
meaning
Skilled and capable.
as in she is a competent project manager
Demonstrating your skills builds that trust.
and credibility.
Exactly. But even if you're super competent, sometimes you need to be, a little
Persuasive.
persuasive is the word. Definition.
To be convincing others.
His speech was very persuasive. Being persuasive is all about understanding your audience.
Tailoring your message so it really lands with them.
You can't just have a strong opinion.
You also gotta be,
Analytical.
that's another key one,
Meaning,
using logic and reasoning.
he has strong analytical skills. Being able to break down complex problems.
And make data-driven decisions. That's highly valued in the business world.
No doubt. And you know what else employers love?
Someone with initiative.
Yeah.
Taking action without being told.
So she showed great initiative in solving the issue.
Being proactive. Going above and beyond. That's what stands out.
For sure. And then at the end of the day, for many businesses,
It all boils down to being
client-focused.
client-focused.
Prioritizing customers' needs.
Our company is very client-focused. It's all about the customer.
Happy customers, happy business. So this whole set of business and professional terms, it really paints a picture, doesn't it?
Of what's valued in the workplace. Totally. Mastering these words gives you a real edge in navigating that world. Which situations in your own work life make you think about these words the most?
Now, hold on to your hats. We're zooming into the lightning-fast world of technology and all things digital.
A world where the language is constantly evolving.
Staying up to date with the vocab here is basically essential for understanding, modern life.
It's the key to not feeling like a dinosaur. Let's kick things off with a big one.
Algorithm.
Algorithm. What does it mean?
It's a step-by-step set of rules for solving problems.
Social media platforms use algorithms to show content. But it's important to remember that different algorithms,
You can have different goals. Some might prioritize showing you the latest and greatest.
while others try to guess what you'll find most engaging, even if it's old news,
Fascinating. And with so much of our lives now playing out online,
cybersecurity becomes crucial.
cybersecurity. Definition.
Protecting computers from hacking,
Cybersecurity is essential for online businesses. It's like the digital security guard.
keeping our information safe from all those nasty threats. Malware, phishing attempts,
The whole shebang. Then, of course, there's the ever-expanding world of
artificial intelligence or AI.
AI. That's the one everyone's talking about.
Definition: machines that think like humans.
AI is revolutionizing many industries, from self-driving cars to, believe it or not, medical diagnoses.
It's mind-blowing how fast it's evolving. And a lot of this tech relies on
Cloud computing.
cloud computing. Definition:
Storing data on the internet.
most companies use cloud computing for storage. It's like having this massive shared online space,
Accessible from anywhere.
which leads to a data-driven approach,
Data-driven. What does that mean?
making decisions based on facts and numbers.
We use a data-driven approach for marketing. Makes sense. We're swimming in data these days.
Being able to analyze it and use it to make smart choices
Is more important than ever. But here's the thing. All this digital activity,
leaves behind a
digital footprint,
digital footprint. It is. Definition:
the online record of someone's activities.
your digital footprint can affect job opportunities. Food for thought. Right.
big time.
Right.
What we do online can have real-world consequences.
Absolutely. Another huge force in the digital world is
Automation.
automation. What does it mean?
Using technology to do tasks without humans.
Automation improves efficiency in factories.
Streamlining processes, reducing the need for manual labor, especially in those repetitive tasks.
It's changing the game across so many industries.
And then, of course, there's how we consume entertainment these days. Through
Streaming.
definition.
Watching videos or music online without downloading.
So I prefer streaming movies instead of downloading them.
It's all about that instant access.
On-demand entertainment.
Right.
And let's not forget the giant elephant in the digital room.
E-commerce.
E-commerce, definition.
Buying and selling online.
E-commerce has changed the way we shop. It's transformed retail.
Brought a whole new level of convenience. But to keep all those online transactions safe. Encryption?
Encryption, yep.
Meaning
Protecting information by converting it into code.
banking apps use encryption for security. Scrambling our data so only the right people can read it.
So, you see, this tech and digital vocabulary,
It's not just about keeping up with the latest gadgets.
it's about understanding the fundamental shifts happening all around us.
Being a savvy citizen of the digital age, which of these tech terms pops up most often in your world?
Now, let's talk about something that affects us all every single day. Shopping and finance.
Money matters. And knowing these words can really help you make smarter choices with your cash.
Absolutely. First up, we've got
Disposable income,
disposable income.
meaning money left after paying expenses.
As in, I use my disposable income for travel.
Knowing how much you have left after the bills are paid.
Is the cornerstone of budgeting and financial planning.
The foundation of it all.
Yeah.
Of course, what you can actually buy with that disposable income.
To be affected by
Inflation.
inflation. Yep. Meaning,
The increase in prices over time.
like, inflation has made everything more expensive. It's crazy how much prices have gone up.
There are actually different types of inflation.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, you've got demand pull inflation, where too much money's chasing too few goods.
Which drives prices up.
And then there's cost push inflation, where rising production costs get passed on to us consumers.
So it's like a double whammy. Once you've got a handle on your disposable income, you might think about
Investment,
investment, meaning,
putting money into something to gain profit.
as in, real estate is a good investment.
But there are all sorts of investments out there.
Stocks, bonds, you name it.
Understanding how they work is key for long-term financial growth.
And don't forget about interest rates.
Interest rates. That's
The
the
cost of borrowing money.
interest rates are rising this year, which affects everything.
Mortgages, business loans, you name it.
If you're trying to free up more disposable income for investing, you might consider being more
Frugal,
frugal. I like that word.
it means careful about spending money. I live a frugal lifestyle to save money, making conscious choices.
Being mindful of where your money goes and when you do spend.
It's always good to know if something is
Refundable.
refundable. Definition.
Can be returned for money back.
This item is refundable within 30 days.
Gives you a bit of a safety net. Then, every time you buy something, you're making a
Transaction.
transaction. Yep.
Definition.
An exchange of money.
Online transactions are becoming more common.
Cash, digital payments, so many ways to move money around these days. Now, sometimes the whole economy hits a rough patch. What do we call that?
A recession.
Recession, meaning
A period of economic decline.
the country is facing a recession. It can affect jobs, business profits.
The whole picture. For those who are into investing, understanding
Stock market is essential.
stock market, that's where
You buy and sell shares of publicly traded companies.
little pieces of big businesses.
Exactly. And as the saying goes, the stock market is unpredictable.
No kidding. Finally, for businesses, a crucial metric is
Revenue,
revenue, meaning
money earned by a business.
our company's revenue increased by 20% this year. That's the money coming in before any expenses.
The lifeblood of any business. So as you can see, these shopping and finance words
They give us a glimpse into the inner workings of both personal finance.
and the broader economy.
It all connects. Thinking about your own finances, which of these terms has the biggest impact on your day-to-day decisions? Okay, last but certainly not least, we're diving into the fascinating world of emotions and personal development.
understanding ourselves and how we relate to others.
This is where it gets really interesting. What's our first word in this category?
Let's start with resilient.
Resilient. Love that word.
It means able to recover from difficulties.
Like she is very resilient after facing challenges.
Being able to bounce back from setbacks, that's a key ingredient for growth.
No doubt. And a powerful tool for navigating those ups and downs is
Mindfulness.
mindfulness.
Yeah.
Definition.
Being aware of the present moment.
Practicing mindfulness helps reduce stress. It's about being present.
Without judgment.
And right alongside mindfulness, we have
Self-awareness.
self-awareness, meaning
Understanding yourself.
self-awareness is key to personal growth.
Yeah.
Knowing your strengths, weaknesses, values, those emotional triggers.
It's foundational for making positive changes. Now, when it comes to connecting with others,
Being charismatic can be a real advantage.
charismatic. Definition.
Attracting people with personality.
He is a charismatic speaker. It's that magnetic quality that draws people in.
For sure. But charisma isn't everything. For truly meaningful connections,
You need empathy.
empathy,
Definition.
understanding others' feelings,
Good leaders show empathy for their team. Putting yourself in someone else's shoes.
seeing the world through their eyes. That's powerful.
It really is. And you know what else can have a big impact on our well-being?
Gratitude,
Gratitude it is.
meaning thankfulness.
Practicing gratitude improves happiness.
Appreciating the good things in life, both big and small.
It can really shift your perspective. Now, on the flip side,
Sometimes we get stuck in the trap of
overthinking.
overthinking. Definition.
Thinking too much about something.
I tend to overthink decisions. Been there? The key is recognizing when you're spiraling.
And then finding ways to break free, of course, to achieve our big goals.
We need a healthy dose of
Ambition.
ambition, meaning
Having big goals.
like she is ambitious and wants to be CEO, setting your sights high.
And going for it. But ambition without
Authenticity.
can lead you astray.
Authenticity
Being
meaning
real and genuine.
as in people appreciate authentic leaders. Being true to yourself.
Aligning your actions with your values.
Because that's what builds trust. And finally, we have
Intuitive.
intuitive, definite.
Understanding things without explanation.
She has an intuitive sense of people's emotions, that gut feeling.
The instinct that goes beyond logic. So, you see, this whole realm of emotions and personal development
It gives us tools to understand our inner world.
and our relationships with others.
It's a journey of self-discovery. Which of these words resonates most deeply with you right now on your own personal journey? Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into these 50 advanced vocabulary words.
We've covered so much ground, from getting things done to the complexities of the business world
The ever-evolving landscape of technology, the ins and outs of finance.
and the rich tapestry of human emotions.
You're now equipped to use these words with precision and confidence,
To communicate your ideas more effectively.
to navigate the world with greater awareness and understanding. As you reflect on this deep dive, ask yourself,
Which words were completely new to you?
and which ones gave you a fresh perspective?
A new way of seeing things. Now, for our final thought.
Something to ponder as you go about your day.
Imagine this. How might consciously weaving even a few of these words into your everyday vocabulary,
Change the way you perceive the world.
the way you interact with others?
The power of language is truly transformative.
More than you might think.
All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another deep dive.
Yeah, welcome back.
You know, if you're here, you're probably not just starting out with English.
Right.
I mean, you've been working at it.
Right.
I imagine you have a pretty decent foundation you can get by in most situations.
Absolutely.
But
You're here for more, right?
I think so, yeah. You're listening to this because you want more.
Yeah, you want to take it to that next level.
Right.
You want to sound
Well, I
more natural.
You're natural.
You want to sound like a native speaker.
Exactly.
You want to have that fluency,
Yeah.
that real natural, effortltless flow.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to be talking about today in this deep dive.
So we've got 6
Hacks,
hacks,
Oh,
yeah,
it's terrible.
tricks, techniques,
strategies.
all that good stuff
Yeah.
to help you get there.
All right, so the first one we're going to be talking about is this idea of translating in your head.
Oh, yeah, this is a big one.
Yeah. So if you're always thinking in your native language and then translating into English, it's going to slow you down.
Oh, for sure.
It's going to make you sound less natural.
Totally.
So what we want to do is we want to retrain your brain.
Rewire it.
Yeah. Rewire it to think directly in English.
So instead of thinking in your native language and then translating, you're just thinking in English straight away.
Right.
Boom.
So how do you do that?
Well, one way to kind of start to make that shift is just by describing your surroundings in English. Like wherever you are right now, just look around and start talking to yourself in English.
Like I'm sitting in a studio.
Yeah, I'm looking out the window. I see
a microphone.
Yeah, just simple things like that.
Easy, yeah.
Another good one is to debate with yourself in English.
Ooh.
So
I like that.
This is kind of fun.
I do that already.
You do?
Yeah. I have arguments with myself.
But you do it in English now, right?
Well, sometimes, I guess now that you mentioned, I do sometimes do it in other languages.
But try and do it in English. Because what that does is it gets you thinking about different perspectives.
Right.
And you're forced to use
Different vocabularies.
Different grammatical structures.
Exactly.
And it just gets the wheels turning.
Yeah. I like that. In English.
Okay, good tip.
Another thing you can do is something called the 5-minute rule.
Oh, I've heard of this.
Yeah. Have you ever tried it?
I think so. I'm not sure.
So this is where like every hour you just spend 5 minutes thinking only in English.
Okay.
No other languages allowed.
This is 5 minutes every hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can set like a reminder on your phone.
Ooh, that's enough.
Like, think in English now or something like that.
Time to think in English.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I like it.
And then also, try to actually use English to like solve problems or make decisions throughout your day.
Okay.
So like, for example, if you're trying to decide what to have for lunch, instead of, thinking about it in your native language and then translating, just think, what do I want for lunch?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm kind of in the mood for a salad.
Yeah, maybe a salad.
Or maybe a sandwich.
A sandwich sounds good.
Yeah.
Right, so you're just making those decisions in English.
Right.
So by doing all of this, you're basically training your brain
Yes.
to process information in English more and more automatically.
And the more you do it, the easier it becomes.
Right. And eventually it'll just become second nature.
Awesome.
Okay, so hack number 2 is all about pronunciation.
Okay.
Now you might think, okay, I've got pronunciation down.
Yeah.
People understand me.
Right.
But
do you sound like a native speaker?
yeah, do you really sound natural?
Right.
And one of the best ways to improve your pronunciation and to really sound more natural is to use a technique called shadowing.
Shadowing.
Yes.
What is that?
So shadowing is where you basically listen to a native English speaker
Okay.
and you repeat what they say.
Oh, so I'm like their shadow.
Yeah, you're like their shadow. So you're not just listening passively. You're actively repeating and you're trying to imitate
Their pronunciation.
their intonation,
Okay.
their rhythm,
I see.
everything.
So I can shadow you right now?
You can shadow me.
Can I?
Good.
So I'm like your shadow.
Yeah.
So I'm like their shadow.
You're like their shadow.
Okay, got it.
But try to do it at the same time.
Oh, okay. So at the same time, so I'm like their shadow.
We're like their shadow.
You're like their shadow.
You like their shadow.
Okay, I think I'm getting it.
Yeah, you're getting there.
It's hard.
It is hard, but it's really effective.
Okay.
And you can shadow anything.
Okay.
You can shadow podcasts,
So that talks.
TED Talks, audiobooks, movies.
This deep dive.
This deep dive.
Okay, cool.
And then you can also combine shadowing with something called speed training.
Speed training.
Yes.
So I'm going fast.
So basically you're just reading out loud,
Okay.
but you're reading faster than your comfortable pace.
Oh, okay. So I'm pushing myself
You're pushing yourself
to go faster
to go faster
than I normally would.
than you normally would. And it feels a little bit uncomfortable at first,
Yeah, probably.
but it helps you to train your mouth muscles
Oh, okay.
and your brain
To move faster.
to move faster, to process things faster,
Yeah.
and to produce the sounds more quickly.
Yeah, that's that.
So, some good ways to practice this are using movie scripts. You can act out scenes,
Go ahead.
try to keep up with the actors.
Okay.
You can also record yourself reading something
Uh-huh.
and then listen back to it
Okay.
and compare it to a native speaker reading the same thing.
Okay.
So you can really hear where you need to improve.
Yeah, great tip.
Okay, hack number 3 is all about grammar.
Grammar.
Yes?
Everyone's favorite.
I know it can be a little bit dry.
But important.
It is important.
It is.
And even at an advanced level, you might find that you're still making the same small mistakes over and over again.
Oh, yeah, those little things that just keep tripping you up.
Exactly. So one of the best ways to get rid of these mistakes is to use a technique called error tracking.
Error tracking.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a really good way to do error tracking is to keep an error journal.
An error journal.
Yeah.
I need to get one of those.
You should.
I do.
It's basically just a notebook where you write down every time you make a mistake.
Okay, so every time I make a mistake, I write it down.
Every time.
Okay.
And then you write the correct version next to it.
Oh, okay. So I can see the mistake and I can see how to correct it.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that.
And then what you do is you review your error journal Regularly.
Regularly?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you practice saying the correct sentences out loud
Out loud.
until they become automatic.
Until they become natural.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're basically training your brain.
To recognize the correct patterns.
Yeah.
Oh.
And to produce them without even thinking about it.
Got it.
And a really good tip here is to ask a tutor or a native speaker to listen to you speak and to point out any mistakes that they notice.
Oh, that's helpful.
Yeah, because sometimes we don't even realize we're making mistakes,
Right.
especially if they're small mistakes.
Yeah, and those small mistakes can make a big difference.
They can.
Yeah.
So by focusing on those small mistakes and really getting rid of them,
You can improve your fluency a lot.
you can.
Yeah. Okay. I like this original idea.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I'm going to start doing that.
Okay, so hack number 4 is all about vocabulary.
Vocabulary.
Now, you probably already know a lot of words,
Right.
but do you know how to use them naturally?
Ah, that's the key, isn't it?
That's the key.
It's not just about knowing the words.
Yeah.
It's about knowing how to use them.
It's about knowing how to use them correctly.
Correctly and naturally.
Yeah, naturally.
Like a native speaker.
Like a native speaker.
Okay.
So one of the best ways to do this is to learn collocations.
Collocations.
Yes.
What are those?
Collocations are words that go together naturally.
Okay.
So for example,
Give me an example.
you would say, make a decision,
Make a decision.
not do a decision.
Not do a decision.
Right. Even though both of those words technically mean the same thing.
Make and do.
Yeah.
Okay, but make a decision sounds more natural.
It sounds more natural.
Okay.
And that's because it's a collocation.
Oh, I see.
So native speakers just automatically know these collocations
Right.
because they've been exposed to them their whole lives, so they don't have to think about it.
It just sounds right.
It just sounds right.
Okay.
But as English learners, we have to make a conscious effort to learn these collocations.
Okay. So how do we do that?
Well, one way is to use a collocation dictionary.
A collocation dictionary.
Yeah,
Is that a real thing?
it's a real thing.
Wow.
You can find them online or you can buy them.
Okay.
And they basically just list all the words that commonly go together.
Okay.
So you can look up a word,
Uh-huh.
then it'll show you all the other words that it often collocates with.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
And then another good way to learn collocations is to just pay attention when you're reading or listening to English
Okay.
and notice which words tend to go together.
So just be more aware.
Yeah, just be more aware.
Okay.
And then you can also try to use those collocations in your own speaking and writing.
Okay. So make a conscious effort.
Yeah,
Use them.
to use them.
Okay.
And then in addition to collocations, there are also idioms,
Idioms.
which are kind of like collocations, but they're a little bit more complex.
Okay.
So idioms are phrases
Mm.
that have a figurative meaning
Okay.
that's different from the literal meaning of the words.
So the meaning is not obvious
Not a,
from the individual words.
Yeah, okay.
So for example,
Give me an example.
the idiom kick the bucket
Kick the bucket.
means to die.
Ooh,
But if you just looked at the words kick and bucket,
you wouldn't know that it meant to die.
you wouldn't know that it meant to die.
Okay, so idioms are tricky.
They can be tricky.
Yeah, but they're also really important
Why?
because they're used all the time in natural English.
Oh,
So if you want to sound like a native speaker,
I need to learn idioms
you need to learn idioms.
Okay.
And the best way to learn idioms is in context.
in context.
Yeah, so by reading and listening to a lot of English
Okay.
and paying attention to how idioms are used,
Got it.
and then you can also try to use them yourself in your own speaking and writing.
Okay.
Okay, so hack number 5 is all about conversation skills.
Conversation skills.
Yes.
Okay.
So, you might know a lot of grammar,
Right.
you might have a big vocabulary,
Yeah.
but when it comes to actually having a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
you might freeze up.
Oh, yeah. I've been there.
Yeah.
I know what to say in my head, but then when I try to say it out loud,
It just doesn't come out,
yeah,
or it comes out all wrong.
exactly.
So what can you do about that?
Well,
One thing you can do is to practice having conversations with
Yeah.
yourself,
with myself. So like talking to the mirror.
talking to the mirror,
Okay.
or just talking out loud to no one in particular.
Okay.
And you can practice different scenarios.
Scenarios.
Yeah, like imagine that you're
At a restaurant.
at a restaurant ordering food,
Okay.
or imagine that you're at a job interview,
Uh-huh.
or imagine that you're just meeting someone for the first time,
Okay.
and practice what you would say in those situations.
So kind of like role playing.
Yeah, you're role playing.
Okay.
And the more you practice, the more confident you'll feel.
When the real situation happens.
Exactly.
Okay.
And you can also record yourself
Oh, yeah.
and then listen back to it.
So I can hear how I sound.
So you can hear how you sound
Okay.
and you can identify any areas where you need to improve.
Yeah, like if I'm hesitating a lot.
Yeah.
Or if I'm using the wrong words.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay. So hack number 6 is all about immersion.
Immersion.
Yeah.
Okay.
So immersion is basically just surrounding yourself with English as much as possible.
So like living in an English-speaking country.
That's the best way to do it.
But I can't do that.
I know, but you can still create an immersive environment for yourself.
Even if I don't live in an English-speaking country.
Even if you don't live in an English-speaking country.
Okay.
So there are all sorts of things you can do.
Like what?
You can listen to English music.
Yeah.
You can watch English movies and TV shows.
Huh.
You can read English books and articles.
Okay.
You can talk to English speakers online.
Yeah.
You can even change the language on your phone and computer to English.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
So just make English a part of your daily life.
As much as possible.
As much as possible.
Okay.
And the more you do it, the more natural it will become.
And the more fluent I'll become.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there you have it.
6 hacks
6 hacks for advanced English learners.
to improve their fluency.
And remember,
That.
the key is to be consistent.
Consistent.
Yeah.
Practice every day.
Practice every day.
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
And you'll get there.
You'll get there.
I believe in you.
And just one last thing.
What?
Don't be afraid to push yourself outside of your comfort zone.
Okay.
Like, try talking to native speakers.
Even if I'm nervous.
Even if you're nervous.
Okay.
Try watching movies without subtitles.
Ooh, that's hard.
I know it's hard,
But I'll try.
but it's good for you.
Okay.
And, just keep challenging yourself
Yeah.
to use English in new and different ways.
I like it.
So, for example, how do you usually practice English?
Well, I like to listen to podcasts.
Oh, yeah.
And I also try to talk to native speakers whenever I get the chance.
That's great.
Yeah, it's hard, but it's good
It
practice.
is good practice.
And what about you?
Well, I like to read books and articles in English.
Mm-hmm.
And I also try to watch movies and TV shows without subtitles.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It is tough, but it's really helpful.
It is.
All right, so that's it for this deep dive.
That was a good one.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it.
I did.
And I hope you learned something new.
I learned a lot.
Good.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions or comments,
Or any suggestions for future deep dives.
yeah, definitely let us know.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
And until next time,
Happy English learning.
keep practicing.
And stay fluent.
Bye for now. All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back for another deep dive. We always get a lot of questions from our intermediate learners, people who have the basics down, but really want to break through to that next level of fluency and confidence. So today, we're going to really unpack some smart, effective hacks that can help you accelerate your English learning and just make the whole process a lot more fun and rewarding.
Exactly. You get a good foundation. You're comfortable with the basics. Now it's about fine-tuning, finding those little shortcuts that make a huge difference. We've gone through a ton of material, research different techniques, and our mission here is to pull out those golden nuggets, those practical strategies that you can actually start using right away.
Exactly. No more feeling stuck in that intermediate plateau, right? We want to get you guys talking smoothly, confidently, and feeling good about it. And to help you do that, we've got 6 key hacks that we're going to be diving deep into today.
Okay, so hack number 1. Let's talk about vocabulary, because so many learners get stuck in that cycle of just memorizing word lists. You make flashcards, you drill, you try to cram all these individual words into your head. But then when it comes to actually using them, they just don't seem to flow naturally.
It's like you've got all the ingredients, but you don't have the recipe, right? You're missing that context, that understanding of how the words actually work together in real sentences and conversations. So instead of just focusing on isolated words like, let's say, improve, skills, fluency, this first hack is all about learning words within their natural habitat, so to speak.
What we mean by that is, think about the difference between learning the word improve in isolation versus learning the phrase, I want to improve my speaking skills.
Yeah.
You're not just getting a dictionary definition. You're seeing how it connects to other words, to actions, to a whole idea.
Absolutely. And the same goes for a word like fluency. Sure, you can memorize the definition, but when you encounter it in a sentence like, fluency takes time, but consistent practice makes perfect, you get a much richer understanding of its meaning and how it relates to other concepts like practice and, perfection.
The really cool thing is, our brains are actually wired to remember things better when they're embedded in a context. It's like those memory techniques where you link information to a vivid image or a story. When you learn words within sentences and phrases, you're automatically creating those connections.
Okay, so let's make this practical. Our first tip here is to really make an effort to encounter new words within stories, dialogues, things that you actually enjoy reading or listening to. So instead of just passively going through a vocabulary list, pick up a short story in English, even a children's book if you're starting out, and highlight any interesting words you come across. Then, don't just look up the definition in isolation, read the whole sentence, maybe even the paragraph around it, to really see how it's being used.
That's a great starting point. And to really take it a step further, there's a really powerful technique called sentence mining. Here's how it works. When you come across a new word, instead of just writing it down, write down the entire sentence where you found it. This captures the context, the way the word is used naturally.
So for example, let's say you're reading a blog post about language learning, and you come across the sentence, "One of the biggest challenges for intermediate learners is achieving fluency in spoken English." Now, instead of just noting down fluency, you've got that whole sentence as a reference point.
Exactly. You're not just translating it in your head, you're seeing it in action, connected to specific ideas like challenges, learners, spoken English. And then here's the key. Once you have that sentence, try to create 5 new sentences of your own, using that word fluency in different ways, but still keeping that original context in mind.
That's a great way to really cement that word in your memory and start to internalize how it works in different situations. It's like taking a new tool and practicing using it in different ways until it becomes second nature.
Right. And speaking of practice, that brings us to our second hack, which is all about mastering pronunciation and getting your mouth to actually cooperate with what you know in your head.
This is something we hear a lot from intermediate learners. I understand English when I hear it, I can read it pretty well, but when I try to speak, it just doesn't sound right. And that can be super frustrating because you feel like you're stuck.
It is frustrating. And there's a technique called shadowing that can really help with this. It's about training your mouth and your ear to work together more effectively, almost like you're becoming a vocal mimic of native speakers.
So what you do is you find a short piece of audio, maybe a TED Talk, a part of a podcast, or even a scene from a movie where the dialogue is pretty clear. Listen to it once just to get the gist of what's being said, then listen again, and this time try to repeat what the speaker is saying almost simultaneously.
Like you're their shadow, right? It might feel a little strange at first, but the key is to really pay attention to the details. Try to match not just the words, but the rhythm, the intonation, those little pauses and stresses that give spoken English its natural flow.
For practice material, TED Talks are often excellent because the speakers are usually very clear and articulate. There are also tons of great podcasts out there featuring native English speakers talking about all sorts of interesting topics.
And don't worry if you can't keep up perfectly at first. It's totally normal to feel a bit clumsy or to stumble over words in the beginning. Start slowly, maybe break the audio down into shorter phrases or sentences. As you get more comfortable, you can gradually increase the speed and complexity.
In fact, we can try a little shadowing exercise right now. Listen to this sentence and try to repeat it along with me. Today, we're learning how to improve English fast.
Did you notice how the speaker emphasized the word fast? Try to capture those little nuances. That's how you start to internalize the natural rhythm of the language.
All right, let's move on to hack number 3, which is all about thinking directly in English. This is a really big one because so many learners get stuck in the habit of translating everything in their heads.
It's a really common trap, and it can really slow you down when you're trying to speak. It's like having a constant mental delay, You have a thought in your native language, you translate it word for word into English, and then finally you speak.
Exactly, and that translation process, while it might feel natural at first, can actually prevent you from expressing yourself smoothly and confidently in English. It creates this mental barrier that you need to break through.
So how do you do that? Well, the key is to start training your brain to think in English as much as possible. Sounds a little crazy, right?
Yeah.
But it's really about creating those direct connections between thoughts, ideas, and English words and phrases.
A good way to start is by simply describing your everyday actions in English, even if you're just talking to yourself. As you're making breakfast, think, okay, I'm pouring some cereal, now I'm adding milk, I need a spoon. It might feel a bit silly at first, but it's building that habit of thinking directly in English without that translation step.
Another really good technique is to start keeping a short diary or journal in English. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, just 3 to 5 sentences each day about what you did, how you're feeling, anything that's on your mind.
And don't be afraid to talk to yourself in English. Narrate what you're doing. Describe what you see around you. I'm walking to the store. It's a sunny day. There's a lot of traffic today. It's like becoming your own personal English commentator.
The more you do this, the more natural it will start to feel. To illustrate the difference, think about the wrong way. The wrong way is, I'm hungry, translate, I want to eat. The right way, you would just think, oh man, I'm starving, what's for dinner?
So you're literally changing the way your brain processes language. And the more you practice thinking in English, the easier it will be to speak it fluently and naturally.
Okay, hack number 4. This one is all about grammar, which can be a bit of a sticking point for a lot of learners. We want to help you get past that fear of making mistakes and start using grammar in a way that's both correct and natural sounding. We call it the 1, 2, 3 method.
It's a really simple framework, but super effective. Step 1. You start with a basic, simple sentence. It might feel a little bare bones, but it's likely to be grammatically sound. For example, I go to work at 9 a.m. Short, sweet, and to the point.
Then in step 2, you start adding some details, some complexity to that basic sentence. You can use adverbs, add clauses, explain why. So our simple sentence could become, I usually go to work at 9 a.m. because my office opens at 9:30. See how we've added some more information, made it a bit more interesting?
And then step 3 is where you really polish it up, make it sound more natural and expressive, like something a native speaker would actually say. So we might transform our sentence into, I'm usually at the office by 9 a.m. It's just kind of a habit now. That little phrase at the end adds a touch of personality, makes it flow more smoothly.
Exactly. And the best way to practice this is to take a basic sentence, any sentence that comes to mind, and try to rewrite it in those 3 different ways. Step 1, simple core. Step 2, add some details. Step 3, make it natural and expressive.
Let's try a quick example. The basic sentence is, I like reading. So step 1, I like reading. Step 2, adding some details. I enjoy reading books in my free time. And finally, step 3, making it more natural. Whenever I have some free time, I love to curl up with a good book. It's so relaxing.
See how we gradually build on that simple foundation? That's the beauty of the 1, 2, 3 method. You're internalizing those grammar patterns in a way that feels natural, not like you're memorizing a bunch of rules.
Now, for hack number 5, we're going to address a big one. Confidence. You know, you can study, you can learn grammar, you can expand your vocabulary, but if you're not feeling confident when you speak, it can hold you back.
Absolutely. Confidence is key. And a really powerful way to build confidence is to actually record yourself speaking English and then compare it to how native speakers sound. I know hearing your own recorded voice can be a little cringeworthy, but trust me, it's an incredibly valuable tool.
It really is. So here's how you do it. Choose a short piece of audio, maybe a segment from a podcast or a news report, something where the speaker is talking clearly and naturally, then read that same passage aloud yourself and record it. Once you have both recordings, listen to them back to back and compare.
Pay attention to your pronunciation. Are you hitting those sounds correctly? How about your speaking speed? Are you rushing? Are you dragging? And listen to your intonation, the way your voice rises and falls. Does it sound natural? Engaging?
A good tip here is to try to make this a weekly practice. Choose a different audio clip each week and go through that process of listening, recording, and comparing. You'll be amazed at how much improvement you'll hear over time.
And if you're feeling really brave, find a conversation partner. It could be a friend who's a native speaker, a language exchange partner, even just someone who's a bit more advanced in English than you. They can give you feedback on your pronunciation, your fluency, and just generally help you feel more comfortable speaking.
Here's a little example of how this might come up in conversation. Someone might say, have you ever tried recording yourself speaking English? And you could respond, you know, I used to be terrified to do that, but I actually started doing it a few weeks ago, and honestly, I've already noticed a big difference in my pronunciation.
See, it's all about pushing yourself a little bit outside your comfort zone. And the more you practice, the more confident you'll become. You'll start to recognize those areas where you need to improve, and you'll also be able to celebrate your progress.
All right, for our final hack, we're going to talk about something that can be a game changer, especially for learners who feel a bit overwhelmed by the vastness of the English language. It's all about applying the 80-20 rule to your learning.
The 80-20 rule, also known as the Pareto principle, basically says that 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. So in the context of English learning, this means focusing on the most frequently used words and phrases, the core vocabulary that native speakers use every single day.
Instead of trying to learn every word in the dictionary, which would take forever, you're strategically focusing on the words and phrases that will give you the biggest bang for your buck.
What kind of vocabulary are we talking about? Well, definitely those super common versatile verbs like get, take, make, have, go, do. They pop up everywhere. Learn those inside and out, and you'll be able to express yourself in so many different situations.
And then there are those everyday phrases that we use all the time, things like, that sounds good, or I'm not sure about that. These are like prefabricated building blocks that can instantly make your English sound more natural and fluent.
Idioms and common expressions also fall into this crucial 20%. While there are tons of idioms out there, start by focusing on the ones you hear most often, like, let's call it a day, or break a leg. Understanding and using these correctly can really elevate your English.
A really practical tip here is to think about the 20 most common phrases you use in your own native language on a daily basis. You know, the things you say almost without thinking. Then make it a goal to learn exactly how to say those same things in English.
For example, you might say things like, what do you mean? Or, let me think about it for a second. Or, oh no, I'm running late, all the time. Mastering the English equivalents of those phrases will give you a huge boost in fluency and confidence.
So there you have it, our 6 smart learning hacks to help you break through that intermediate plateau and really level up your English. Just to recap quickly. Number 1, learn words in context, not in isolation. Number 2, use shadowing to fine-tune your pronunciation. Number 3, start thinking in English as much as possible. Number 4, master the 1-2-3 method for grammar. Number 5, record yourself speaking and compare it to native speakers. And number 6, apply the 80-20 rule to your learning.
And just one final bonus tip before we wrap up, make it fun. Look for opportunities to actually use your English in real-world situations. You know, order your coffee in English, chat with a tourist, switch your phone's language settings to English. The more you immerse yourself in the language, the faster you'll learn.
Here's a little example of how these hacks might come up in a conversation. Someone might ask, what's the best way to improve my spoken English? And you could say, well, I've been using shadowing a lot and it's really helped my pronunciation. I also try to record myself speaking once a week to see how I'm doing. And then they might say, that's a great idea. I'm trying to think in English more these days. It's definitely a challenge, but it makes a big difference.
Exactly. Those little changes in your mindset, in your approach, can have a huge impact on your progress. So keep practicing these hacks, make them a part of your routine, and you'll be amazed at how far you can go.
That's it for today's deep dive. As always, it was awesome exploring these ideas with you. We'll be back soon with more tips and strategies to help you on your English learning journey. And hey, if there are any topics you'd love us to cover in future episodes, let us know. We're always open to suggestions.
Absolutely. Keep those questions coming. We love hearing from you. Until next time, happy learning, everyone.
See you soon. All right, so starting English, it can feel like being hit by a wave.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But what if there is a way to learn smarter,
Yeah.
Today, we're going to dive deep into this guide.
Okay.
All about learning hacks just for beginners.
Nice.
And hopefully we can figure out how to help you learn faster and more confidently.
Sounds good.
That's
Good to dig into this.
Me too. So we can forget those endless grammar exercises.
Urge. Yeah.
Or memorizing tons of words.
Please, no more lists of words.
Instead, we're focusing on the most useful tips for beginners.
That's what we're here for.
Exactly. And how to stay motivated while learning.
So important. You can get discouraged easily.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get started with the first hack.
Let's do it.
This one's all about vocab.
Okay.
So usually beginners try to memorize a bunch of single words.
Right. Just try to remember as many as possible.
But this guide recommends something very different.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. Let's hear it.
Instead of single words,
Yeah.
you should learn whole phrases.
That's interesting. So instead of memorizing go by itself,
Exactly.
you'd learn it in a sentence like, I need to go to the store.
You got it.
So you're learning go, but also all the other words that go with it.
Precisely. And think about it, knowing go and store separately doesn't really tell you how to use them together.
That's true. I guess I never thought about it that way.
So this way your brain gets all the context.
Makes sense. It's like seeing the whole picture, not just a piece of it.
And our brains naturally learn language in chunks anyway.
So it's kind of tapping into that natural way of learning.
That's the idea. And the guide even says that this helps you sound more like a native speaker.
Oh, because you're learning the phrases they actually use?
Exactly. And it gives us a really practical tip, too.
I love a good practical tip. Let's hear it.
Write short sentences with the new phrases.
Okay.
Then say them out loud.
So you're not just reading them.
Right. You're using your mouth and ears to really learn the sounds.
I like that. It's way more active than just looking at words on a page.
And the guide even gives us a sample conversation.
Okay, let's hear it.
So person A asks, "What are you doing?"
Okay, simple enough.
And person B replies, "I'm going to the store to buy some groceries."
I see. So in just that one sentence, you might learn like 5 new words.
Exactly. And you're learning them in a natural way.
So you're not just memorizing words, you're learning how to actually use them.
That's the goal. Okay, let's move on to hack number 2.
All right, I'm ready.
This one's about listening.
Okay, important skill.
But they call it listening like a baby.
Listening like a baby. That's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah, so basically think about how babies learn language.
They just listen all the time, right?
Right, they spend months just absorbing sounds before they even try to speak.
I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
But it makes sense.
So the idea is to do the same with English.
Just soak it all up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Find some easy English content.
Like what kind of things?
Podcasts for beginners, YouTube channels with simple English, even audiobooks for learners.
I see. So stuff that's not too difficult to understand.
Yeah, and the point isn't to understand every single word at first.
But what's the point then?
It's more about getting used to the sounds of English.
So getting familiar with how it all sounds.
Yeah, like the intonation, the rhythm of the language.
Okay, that makes sense. And then once you're comfortable with the sounds?
Then you can start focusing on understanding the words.
Okay. And how do you actually practice this?
So the guide recommends listening every day,
That sounds doable.
even just for a few minutes.
Okay, better than nothing, right?
Exactly. And they also emphasize the importance of repeating what you hear.
Oh, so not just passively listening.
Right. You got to actively practice the sounds.
So you're not just understanding the words, you're learning how to say them too.
Precisely. And they have a specific technique for this.
Okay, I'm all ears.
It's called shadowing.
Shadowing, like following someone around?
Well, sort of. You listen to the speaker and then immediately try to copy what they're saying.
Oh, wow. So like mimicking their pronunciation and everything.
Exactly. You're basically their shadow trying to sound exactly like them.
Interesting. I can see how that would help with your accent.
For sure. And the guide gives a little example.
Let's hear.
I want to be fluent in English.
Okay, Keji.
And they tell you to repeat it exactly like that.
So you're training your mouth to make the right sounds.
Yeah. And it might seem simple, but this kind of repetition can make a huge difference.
Makes sense. The more you practice, the more natural it'll sound.
All right, ready for hack number 3?
Hit me with it.
This one's all about efficiency.
Ooh, I love efficiency. Let's be real, we all have limited time.
Exactly. And it's based on something called the 80-20 rule.
The 80-20 rule, I've heard of that. What's it all about?
Well, basically it means that 80% of the results come from 20% of the effort.
Oh, interesting. So like a small amount of work can have a big impact.
Exactly. And in terms of language learning, it means that 20% of the words are used 80% of the time.
So you should focus on learning those most common words first.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
all about prioritizing.
Okay, that makes sense. Instead of wasting time on obscure words you'll never use.
Right. You're focusing on the words that will actually help you communicate.
Smart. Okay, so with your words should we be learning?
Well, the guide gives us some great examples, common verbs like go get, make, take, have,
Okay, those are definitely useful.
and useful phrases like how's it going or what do you do?
The basics of small talk.
And then everyday vocabulary related to things like morning, food, work, family.
Those are words you'd use all the time.
Exactly. So the idea is to master this core vocabulary first.
So you can start understanding and speaking in basic conversations.
Right. It's like laying the foundation for more advanced learning later on.
Makes sense. And how do we practice this?
So the guide recommends writing down 10 common phrases every day.
All right, so like a daily vocab list.
Yeah, and then practice saying them out loud.
So you're not just writing them, you're using them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they also suggest using flashcards.
Good old flashcards.
They're a classic for a reason. They really help you memorize.
And the guide gives some good examples of phrases too.
Yeah, things like, can you help me? I don't understand. What's your name? How much does it cost?
Those are definitely phrases you'd use all the time.
Exactly. So if you master these, you'll sound more fluent much faster.
Because you'll be able to handle basic interactions.
Precisely. All right, on to hack number 4.
Bring it on.
This one might be a bit scary for some people.
Uh-oh. What is it?
It's all about speaking.
Yeah. That can be intimidating, especially for beginners.
And the advice is pretty blunt. Speak from day one.
Whoa, hold on. From day one. But what if I don't know enough words yet?
That's the thing. A lot of beginners wait too long to start speaking.
Because they're scared of making mistakes.
Exactly. But the guide says that's a huge mistake.
Well, why is that?
Because language learning is all about using the language.
So you have to actually speak it to learn it.
That's the idea. And even if you only know a few words, you can still start speaking.
But what should I talk about?
Well, the guide suggests talking to yourself.
Talk to myself. Like narrate my life.
Exactly. Like, I am making coffee or now I am going to work.
Okay. That sounds kind of weird, but
Oh.
I guess it would help.
It's a good way to practice without feeling self-conscious.
And then once you're more comfortable talking to yourself,
You can start looking for language partners.
people to practice with.
Exactly, like friends or tutors or even apps for language exchange.
So you can have actual conversation.
Yeah, and even if you make mistakes, that's okay.
It's part of the learning process.
And the guide even gives us a sample conversation.
Okay, let's hear it.
So A asks, do you like coffee?
Simple question.
And B replies, yes, I drink coffee every morning.
See, not perfect grammar, but it gets the point across.
Exactly. And that's what matters at this stage.
Just being able to communicate.
All right, ready for hack number 5?
Lay it on me.
This one's about changing the way you think.
My mind is ready to be blown.
So it's all about learning to think in English.
Instead of translating from my native language.
You got it.
But that's hard. I always catch myself translating in my head.
It's a natural habit, but it actually slows you down.
Oh, why is that?
Because you're basically adding an extra step to everything.
I guess that makes sense.
So the guide says, we need to create direct associations.
Between objects and their English names.
Exactly. So instead of seeing a chair and thinking of the word in your native language.
I should just think chair.
Precisely. And the same goes for everything else. Table, book, window.
So it's like building a mental shortcut.
That's a good way to put it. And you can practice this by making simple sentences in your head.
Like throughout the day.
Yeah, just little things like, I'm hungry, or it's cold today.
Okay, that seems doable.
And the guide recommends starting with just 1 minute of thinking in English,
So like a mini mental workout.
and then gradually increase it to 5 minutes.
So you're slowly training your brain to think in English.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And over time, it'll become more natural.
So I won't have to translate everything anymore.
And the guide gives a helpful example of how this works.
All right, tell me more.
So the wrong way is to think, I need to say I'm hungry in my language first, and then translate it.
Oh yeah, that's totally what I do.
But the right way is to just think, I'm hungry, I want a sandwich.
Wow. So much more direct.
And that directness is key for fluency.
Makes sense. The less you translate, the faster you'll be.
Okay, on to our final hack.
The grand finale. I'm ready.
This one's all about consistency.
Consistency, the key to success.
They say it's more important than long study sessions.
So it's better to study a little bit every day.
Exactly, like 15 minutes a day is better than 2 hours once a week.
I like the sound of that. More manageable.
And they also suggest setting small, achievable goals,
Like what kind of goals?
like learning 5 new words a day,
Okay, that's definitely doable.
or practicing speaking for 5 minutes.
Yeah, those are good starting points.
So you're building momentum without getting overwhelmed.
Makes sense. Small steps lead to big progress.
And they give us some practical tips for making English a daily habit.
I'm all about practical tips. Let's hear them.
So try using English in real life.
Like how?
Write your grocery list in English.
Okay, that's easy enough.
Change the language settings on your phone.
Oh yeah, never thought of that.
Or even just watch one short English video a day.
Okay, I can do that.
And they challenge you to summarize the video in your own words.
So you're actively engaging with the content.
Exactly. You're using your listening and speaking skills.
I like it. It's a fun way to practice.
And the point is that all these small actions add up over time.
So you're constantly reinforcing your learning.
Precisely. And they even have a bonus hack for us.
Ooh, a bonus. I love bonuses.
This one's all about having fun.
Well, that sounds important. Learning should be enjoyable.
Exactly. Because if you're not enjoying it, you're less likely to stick with it.
So true. Motivation is key.
And they give us some suggestions for making learning fun.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Watch English TV shows.
Like what kind of shows?
Friends, The Office, anything you find interesting.
So you're entertained while you're learning?
Exactly. And you can pick up new words and phrases naturally.
That's a win-win.
They also suggest playing English games.
There are tons of language learning apps out there.
And you can also read simple books.
Like children's books or comics.
Yeah, anything that's enjoyable and easy to understand.
So you're not getting bogged down by difficult vocabulary.
Right. The point is to find what you like and use that to learn.
So if you love sports, read about sports in English.
Exactly. Make it personal.
And they have a little example conversation.
Okay, let's hear it.
So A asks, what do you like to watch?
And B replies, I love watching movies in English with subtitles.
Simple but effective.
Right. You're learning while doing something you enjoy.
All right, so let's recap those 6 powerful hacks.
Okay. Number 1, learn words and phrases not alone.
Got it.
Number 2, listen actively like a baby.
Absorbing those sounds.
Number 3, use the 80-20 rule. Prioritize the most common words.
Efficiency is key.
Number 4, speak from day one, even with mistakes.
Don't be afraid to make those mistakes.
Number 5, think in English bypass translation.
Train that brain.
Number 6, make it a daily habit.
Consistency is king.
And don't forget the bonus hack, make it fun.
Learning should be enjoyable.
And the guide gives us a final conversation to illustrate all this.
Okay, let's hear it.
So A asks, what's your best English learning tip?
Good question.
And B replies, I try to listen to English every day and make an effort to speak as much as possible.
Solid advice.
And then A responds, that's great. I also find it helpful to think in English whenever I can and focus on learning phrases rather than just single words.
See, it all comes together.
Exactly. You're using all the hacks in one conversation.
So if we do all these things,
Yeah,
our English will improve faster than we think.
I believe it. It's all about approaching it the right way.
So now that you have all these strategies in your toolbox,
Yeah.
what are you most excited to try out?
Ooh, that's a good question. What about you?
I'm really interested in exploring more English idioms.
Oh, yeah, those can be tricky.
They are, but
Yeah.
they add so much color to the language.
That's true. I think I'm going to try watching more English TV shows with subtitles.
Good choice. You'll be surprised how much you pick up naturally.
Hopefully, I'll even start thinking in English without realizing it.
That's the goal.
All right, well, that's all the time we have for today.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. And to all our listeners out there, keep practicing and keep having fun with English.
You got this.
Until next time, happy learning.
Bye, everyone. All right, so are you ready for this? You've sent in quite a collection of notes and lists and excerpts all about advanced English idioms.
Wow.
It's really impressive. And it looks like you're trying to level up your conversational fluency, and I am totally here for it. And lucky for us,
Yeah.
we've got an expert here who can unpack not just what these idioms mean,
Right.
but also like where they come from and how to use them,
Yeah.
like a pro.
I think it's so fascinating to see so many idioms that go beyond just the basic ones that everyone knows.
Right.
You've chosen phrases that are really expressive and that can add a whole new dimension to your communication.
Exactly. And you know what always gets me about idioms? It's like they're like these little time capsules.
Right.
You know, they give us a glimpse into how people thought and spoke in the past. Like to burn the candle at both ends.
Yeah.
Who knew there was so much history packed into that phrase?
Right. That one takes us all the way back to when candles were the main source of light.
Wow.
So, burning a candle at both ends meant you were really pushing your limits,
Yeah.
working late into the night,
Yeah.
rising early. It's really fascinating how that image has stayed with us.
Right.
Even though we don't use candles in the same way anymore.
I know, right. It's like sudden, it's not just a saying, it's like a whole story.
Exactly.
And speaking of stories,
Yes.
we've got a whole section here
Sure.
about morning and productivity idioms. And
Oh, yeah.
I gotta say, some of them are a little too relatable, if you know what I mean.
Well, it makes sense, though, doesn't it? Because, work and productivity are such big parts of our lives.
Oh, for sure.
That it's only natural that these things would find their way into our language.
Right?
And these idioms often use very vivid imagery
Yes.
to capture those feelings of hustle and pressure.
For sure. Like, hit the ground running.
Oh, yeah.
I swear that's me every Monday morning. It's like you're trying to catch up before you've even had your coffee.
It's such a powerful image, isn't it? You can practically feel the momentum and the urgency in that phrase.
Right.
And then there's keep your nose to the grindstone.
Yes.
That one really evokes a sense of relentless effort,
Yeah.
almost like you're physically grinding away at a task.
Okay, but isn't keep your nose to the grindstone sometimes seen as kind of a
Yeah.
negative thing? Like mindlessly working without questioning things.
That's a great point. It definitely can have that connotation,
Yeah.
especially in today's world where we really value,
Right.
creativity and critical thinking.
Right.
The idiom itself might come from the image of sharpening tools on a grindstone,
Oh, okay.
which requires a lot of focus and repetitive motion. So it does reflect a certain work ethic, but maybe not always the
Right.
most innovative one.
Interesting. So it's like the idiom itself has evolved along with our changing attitudes toward work.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
sometimes you just need that reminder to buckle down and get things done, right?
Totally.
And speaking of perspective shifts, there's a blessing in disguise.
Oh, yeah.
It reminds us that things aren't always what they seem.
Absolutely. It's about finding the silver lining, recognizing that setbacks
Yeah.
can sometimes lead to unexpected opportunities.
Right.
It encourages a more optimistic outlook even when we are faced with challenges.
So true. Okay, but let's be honest.
Yeah,
Work idioms can be a bit tricky.
I agree.
I mean, you got to use them carefully depending on who you're talking to and what you're trying to say.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Some of these idioms, especially those used in business contexts,
Yeah.
require a certain level of awareness and finesse.
For sure. Like playing devil's advocate.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen that one backfire spectacularly when used in the wrong way.
Oh, definitely. It's all about tone and intent, isn't it?
Yeah.
Playing devil's advocate can be a powerful tool for stimulating discussion and challenging assumptions. Yeah,
But if you're not careful, it can come across as argumentative or even disrespectful.
exactly. So how do you use it effectively
Hello.
without, sounding like a jerk?
First, it's crucial to establish a rapport with the person that you're speaking with.
Okay.
Make it very clear that your intention is to explore different perspectives, not to attack their ideas.
Okay.
You might even preface it with something like, just to play devil's advocate for a moment.
Right.
Or you could say, let me challenge that assumption.
Right.
Something like that.
That makes sense. It's like setting the stage for a constructive debate rather than a personal attack.
Exactly. And remember, it's not about winning an argument.
Right.
It's about broadening perspectives
Right.
and potentially uncovering new insights.
Right.
But sometimes there are situations where being direct is the best approach.
For sure.
Like addressing the elephant in the room.
Oh, I love that one. It's so evocative. Like you can practically feel the tension in the air. It's a powerful way to acknowledge an unspoken issue or problem
Right.
that everyone is aware of but hesitant to address directly.
Yeah.
It can be uncomfortable,
For
but
sure.
also incredibly liberating to finally bring it out into the open.
Right.
And it can certainly be more effective than beating around the bush.
Okay, but can we talk about the fun idioms for a second?
Oh, yeah.
The ones that just make you smile when you hear them?
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
There's a certain playfulness to some idioms, especially those related to social situations and food.
Right. Like, bite off more than you can chew. It's such a vivid image.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we've all been there at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Like that time I tried to bake a 5-tier cake for my friend's birthday.
Oh, no.
Let's just say it didn't end well.
That's a perfect example. It's about taking on more than you can handle.
Right.
Whether it's a project or a commitment or even
Yeah,
a plate of food.
for sure. And it's interesting how food imagery is often used to express complex emotions or experiences.
Oh, absolutely.
Ooh, I see what you did there. Food for thought. Right.
Exactly.
But you're totally right.
Yeah.
Like spill the beans. It's such a lighthearted way to talk about revealing a secret,
Right.
even if the secret itself might be serious.
Exactly. It takes something potentially awkward or
Yes,
tense and frames it in a more playful way.
Yeah.
And, not my cup of tea.
Oh, yeah.
It's a gentle way to express disinterest without being harsh or judgmental.
Right.
It allows you to politely decline something without offending the other person.
Right. It's like saying, hey, I respect your thing, but it's just not for me.
Yeah.
Which is totally fine. Everyone has their own preferences. But speaking of things we'd rather avoid,
Uh-oh.
can we talk about crying over spilled milk for a second?
Okay.
I feel like that's something we're all guilty of sometimes, even though we know it's not helpful.
Oh, absolutely. It's a reminder that dwelling on the past, especially on things we can't change,
Right.
is rarely productive. It's about accepting what is learning from our mistakes and moving on.
That actually leads perfectly into the next section.
Which is, don't keep me in suspense.
Emotions and reactions.
Okay.
This is where idioms get really interesting
Yeah.
because they allow us to express those tricky feelings that are hard to put into words.
Absolutely. Idioms give us a shared vocabulary for navigating complex emotional terrain.
Yeah.
It's like they provide a shorthand for experiences we all understand.
Like hit the nail on the head, for example.
Oh, yeah.
It perfectly captures that feeling of getting something exactly right.
Yes.
Whether it's an idea or an explanation or even a joke.
And a hard pill to swallow.
Ooh, yeah.
That one evokes a sense of resistance, of something being difficult to accept, even if we know it's true.
Right.
It's like you can almost feel that lump in your throat as you're trying to force it down.
It's such a visceral image, isn't it? And then there's cold feet.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, who hasn't experienced those pre-event jitters
Right.
at some point in their lives?
It's a universal feeling of hesitation or anxiety, usually before a big decision or event.
Yeah.
And the idiom perfectly captures that sense of wanting to back out,
Okay.
even though you've already committed.
But then you have idioms like keep your chin up
Yes.
that are all about resilience and staying positive even when things are tough.
That one speaks to a cultural value, I think. This idea of facing adversity with courage and determination,
Yeah.
of not letting setbacks define you.
Yeah.
It's about finding the strength to keep going even when it feels difficult.
And let sleeping dogs lie.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's the best advice you can give.
It's about choosing your battles, knowing when to let go of past grievances or conflicts that are no longer serving you.
Right.
It's recognizing that sometimes stirring things up
Yeah.
will only make the situation worse.
You know, I'm sensing a theme here.
Oh, tell me more.
A lot of these idioms seem to be about taking action,
Okay,
making decisions and figuring out how to move forward.
you're right. That's a great observation.
Yeah.
Our next batch of idioms is all about agency and how we navigate the choices we face in life. They offer a glimpse into how we approach challenges, make decisions, and ultimately shape our own destinies.
Okay, so let's talk about throwing in the towel.
Okay.
That's a pretty powerful image, right?
Yeah.
Like admitting defeat, but also having the strength to walk away.
Exactly. It's recognizing when a situation is no longer worth fighting for
Yeah.
and having the courage to move on. It's not always easy,
Right.
but sometimes it's the most sensible choice.
Right. And then there's the ball is in your court.
Oh, yeah.
I use that one all the time, especially at work.
Yeah.
It's a great way to hand off responsibility without being,
Right.
bossy about it.
It's a subtle way to shift the onus onto the other person, making it clear that it's their turn to act.
Right.
It's often used in negotiations or collaborative projects where clear communication about roles and expectations is really crucial.
So it's all about setting boundaries and being clear about who's doing what.
Exactly.
I like that. But sometimes you just got to go with the flow, right?
Yeah, right.
That's where play it by ear comes in handy.
Absolutely. It's a flexible approach,
Yeah.
open to improvisation and serendipity. It can be very liberating, especially in situations where you don't have all the information
Right.
or where things are constantly changing.
Totally. Like when you're traveling and you don't have a strict itinerary, you just see where the day takes you.
Exactly.
But as you said, it can be risky if you need a solid plan.
Right.
Speaking of risk, what about jumping on the bandwagon?
Okay.
I feel like that one can be either positive or negative,
Right.
depending on the context.
It definitely has two sides to it.
Yeah.
On the one hand, it speaks to our social nature, our desire to be part of something bigger than ourselves.
Right.
But it can also lead to herd mentality,
Oh, for sure.
where people blindly follow trends without thinking critically.
That's so true. It's like just because everyone else is doing something doesn't mean it's the right thing to do.
Right.
Sometimes you need to step back and ask yourself,
Yeah.
am I doing this because I genuinely believe in it?
Right.
Or am I just following the crowd?
Exactly. Critical thinking is key.
Yeah.
And speaking of questioning things,
Yes.
how about barking up the wrong tree?
Okay.
I think we've all been there at some point, haven't we?
Oh, absolutely. Like I can think of a few embarrassing situations where I was
Yeah.
completely off track, like blaming the wrong person
Right.
or focusing on the wrong problem.
It's a good reminder to check our assumptions
Yeah.
to make sure we're focusing our energy in the right direction.
Right.
Sometimes we need to step back, reassess the situation, and maybe even ask for help to get a fresh perspective.
Right. Because sometimes you're so focused on your own viewpoint
Right.
that you miss the bigger picture.
Exactly.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. Let's talk about conversations and relationships.
Okay.
Idioms play a huge role in how we communicate with each other.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to those subtle nuances
Right.
that are hard to express directly.
You're absolutely right. These idioms offer fascinating insights into the dynamics of human interaction,
Yeah.
from casual conversations to deep, meaningful connections.
Like a penny for your thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a simple phrase,
Right.
but it shows genuine interest in what the other person is thinking or feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It's like an invitation to open up and share.
It's a gentle way to encourage communication
Yeah.
without being too intrusive. It creates a space for the other person to express themselves freely.
And then there's keep an eye on.
Yes.
It's not just about watching something literally, right?
Right.
It's also about being attentive,
Yeah.
caring,
Yeah.
looking out for someone.
Exactly. It conveys a sense of responsibility and concern.
Mm-hmm.
It can be used in a variety of contexts.
Oh, it is.
From simply keeping an eye on a pot on the stove to looking after a friend who's going through a difficult time.
And all in the same boat. That one's a personal favorite.
Oh,
I think it's so powerful to remember that we're not alone in our struggles.
it fosters a sense of solidarity,
Yeah.
of shared experience. It reminds us that we're all connected, facing similar challenges and triumphs.
Yeah,
It can be incredibly comforting, especially during tough times.
it really can. It's like that feeling of knowing you're not the only one
Yeah.
who feels a certain way or has gone through a certain experience. It's a powerful reminder that we're all human
Yes.
and we're all in this together.
Absolutely. And sometimes in those shared experiences,
Yeah.
we need to let go of past hurts or disagreements.
Right.
That's where an idiom like water under the bridge comes in.
Oh, that's a good one. It's like saying, hey, we've moved on. Let's not dwell on old drama.
Exactly. It's all about forgiveness, reconciliation,
Yeah.
and recognizing that holding on to grudges only weighs us down.
Exactly. It's about choosing to focus on the present and the future rather than being bogged down by past conflicts.
And sometimes that means starting fresh.
Right.
Wiping the slate clean is a powerful image of new beginnings.
It really is. It's like hitting the reset button on a relationship or a situation, giving everyone involved a chance to move forward without the baggage of the past.
And that can be incredibly liberating,
Yeah.
both for individuals and for relationships.
Right.
It allows for growth, healing,
Yeah.
and the possibility of building something stronger and more positive.
You know, talking about all these idioms has made me realize just how much they reflect our values and beliefs as a culture.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We've got idioms about hard work,
Yeah.
resilience, second chances,
Yeah.
and the importance of connection. It's pretty fascinating.
It is, isn't it? Language is such a powerful tool for understanding ourselves
Yeah.
and the world around us.
Right.
And idioms, with their colorful imagery and their historical roots, offer a unique window into the human experience.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired to use all these idioms in my everyday conversations.
Yes.
But first, I think it's time to call it a night. What do you say?
Sounds good to me. It's been a fascinating deep dive
Yeah.
into the world of advanced English idioms.
It's like even the idioms we use to talk about relaxing and winding down reveal something about our culture.
That's so true. Like, even our leisure time
Yeah.
is influenced by those values and beliefs that we hold.
Like, take time flies when you're having fun. It's such a simple statement,
Right.
but it speaks volumes about how we perceive time and
Yeah.
enjoyment.
It really does.
It's like when you're completely absorbed in something that you love, you just lose track of everything else.
Yeah, you're just in the moment.
Yeah.
Completely present. It highlights the importance of finding those activities that bring us joy and make us feel truly present. And it suggests that those moments of genuine engagement
Yeah.
are precious and fleeting, which makes them all the more special.
And then there's get your act together. I feel like that one's been a constant refrain in my life, especially from my parents when I was younger.
It's a call to action, isn't it?
Yeah.
A reminder to take responsibility
Yeah.
for our choices and our behaviors. It can be a gentle nudge,
Right.
or it can be a stern warning, depending on the context.
Right.
But it always emphasizes the importance of self-improvement
Right.
and striving to be our best selves.
It's funny how those childhood sayings stick with us, isn't it?
It really is.
But, you know, even though it might have sounded annoying at the time,
Yeah.
there's definitely some wisdom in that idiom.
Oh, yeah.
We all need those moments to step back and reassess to make sure we're on the right track.
Absolutely. It's about taking ownership of our lives,
Yeah.
setting goals, and making those conscious choices
Right.
that align with our values.
Wow, we've covered so much ground today.
I know, right?
I feel like I've gained a whole new appreciation for the power of idioms.
It's been a fascinating journey,
Yeah.
exploring the nuances of language and how it reflects our shared human experience.
Okay. My favorite has to be spill beans.
Oh, yeah.
It's so playful and visual, and it always makes me smile.
Yeah.
But I also love All in the Same Boat because it reminds me that we're not alone in our struggles and our
That's right.
triumphs.
Exactly.
What about you? Which idioms resonated most with you?
I'm drawn to a blessing in disguise. It's a reminder that even difficult experiences can have a positive impact on our lives.
Right.
It encourages us to look for the silver lining,
Yeah.
even when things feel challenging.
That's a great one. It's all about perspective, isn't it?
It is.
And finding meaning, even in the midst of adversity.
Exactly. And I think that's a powerful message to carry with us.
So to all you listeners out there,
Yes.
I hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the world of advanced English idioms. We've only scratched the surface.
Yeah.
But hopefully you've gained some new insights and maybe even a few phrases
Right.
to add to your conversational repertoire.
Remember, language is a living, breathing thing, constantly evolving and adapting. Embrace the richness and complexity of idioms, and don't be afraid to experiment with them in your own conversations.
And most importantly, have fun with it.
Yes!
After all, as we learned today, time flies when you're having fun.
Absolutely.
Until next time, happy idioming. Welcome to your deep dive on English idioms.
Oh, very cool.
Today, we're going beyond simple definitions. We're going to help you really understand and use 33 of the most common ones.
All right.
Think of it as a fluency upgrade,
Yeah.
adding that natural expressive touch to your English.
It's fascinating how idioms work. They pack so much meaning into just a few words, reflecting shared cultural experiences
Yeah.
and adding that touch of personality to language.
Exactly. And to make this deep dive even more digestible,
Okay.
we've grouped them into themes.
Ooh, nice.
We're kicking things off with idioms related to mornings and daily routines.
All right.
I'm curious, do you have any favorites in this category?
Well, Rise and Shine is a classic, of course. It's more than just waking up.
Right.
It's about approaching the day with energy and enthusiasm. It's that feeling of, all right, let's do this.
I love that it sets the tone for a productive day. Now, speaking of productivity,
Yeah.
hit the ground running is another great one. It's not just about starting early. It's about starting with momentum, diving right into the task at hand.
Right.
Have you ever noticed how this idiom is often used to describe someone new in a job or role?
That's a great observation.
Yeah.
It highlights the importance of making a strong first impression and showing initiative.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how some idioms like burning the midnight oil have a bit of a double-edged sword to them.
Right.
It implies dedication and hard work, but also touches upon the idea of perhaps pushing ourselves a bit too hard.
Right. Burning the midnight oil speaks to those late night work sessions, the scramble to meet deadlines. There's a sense of urgency, but also a hint of maybe I should have managed my time better. It definitely reflects the reality of many work environments.
It does. And then there's a fresh pair of eyes, which I think highlights the value of collaboration and outside perspectives.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get so close to a project or problem that we lose sight of the bigger picture.
It's like being stuck in a rut, unable to see new solutions or possibilities. A fresh perspective can be incredibly helpful in those situations. It's like saying, okay, let's step back and see this from a different angle. And speaking of perspective, the early bird catches the worm is a timeless reminder about the importance of being proactive.
It's about seizing opportunities and taking initiative, not waiting for things to come to you. What's fascinating is how these seemingly simple phrases about mornings and routines
Yeah.
actually offer deeper insights into work ethic, problem solving, and even mindset.
Absolutely. They're not just about literal actions. They're about how we approach challenges and opportunities. It's almost like they offer a little glimpse into the values and beliefs embedded in a culture.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's shift gears a bit and head into the world of work and business.
Okay.
This is where things get interesting, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. There are so many idioms that reflect the dynamics of the workplace.
Right.
Get down to business is a great example. It's that call to action to focus and be productive.
It's like saying, okay, enough chit-chat, let's get things done. And in the business world, bringing something to the table is essential.
Right.
It highlights the importance of contributing value, whether it's skills, knowledge, or unique perspective.
Exactly. It's about demonstrating your worth and showing that you're a valuable asset to the team. But sometimes even with the best intentions we have to put things on the back burner.
That's the reality of prioritization, right? Sometimes we have to delay certain tasks or projects to focus on more urgent matters. It's like acknowledging that we can't do everything at once, and that's okay. But I imagine it can be frustrating when, despite our best efforts, we end up back to square one.
Oh, absolutely. It signifies that feeling of having to start over often after setbacks or unforeseen challenges. It can be a blow to our ego and motivation.
Right.
But it's also an opportunity to reassess our approach and come up with new strategies.
Right. It's like saying, okay, this didn't work, so let's rethink our approach and try something different. And sometimes that something different requires us to think outside the box.
That's where creativity and innovation come into play. It's about breaking free from conventional thinking and exploring new possibilities,
Yeah.
challenging the status quo and coming up with unconventional solutions.
It's like saying, let's not be limited by the way things have always been done. Let's push boundaries and see what we can come up with. It's fascinating how these work and business idioms reflect the need for both focus and flexibility. Wouldn't you agree?
I do. They highlight the importance of being able to adapt, to prioritize, and to constantly seek new solutions. Now, I don't know about you, but all this talk about work is making me hungry. How about we move on to some food-related idioms?
Perfect timing. I was just thinking the same thing. Sometimes we get a little too ambitious and bite off more than we can chew.
That's a relatable one. It's about taking on too much, overcommitting ourselves, and then struggling to keep up.
Yeah.
It can apply to work relationships, even our personal goals.
It's like saying, I thought I could handle all of this, but now I'm feeling overwhelmed. And then there are things that are just not our cup of tea.
It's a polite way of saying we don't enjoy something. It acknowledges personal preferences without being dismissive or judgmental.
Right. It's like saying, I respect your taste, but this just isn't for me. It's a gentle way to navigate those differences in taste and preferences. But no matter what our preferences are, it's important to remember not to cry over spilled milk.
It's a reminder that dwelling on past mistakes or things we can't change is unproductive. It's about accepting what's happened and moving forward.
It's like saying, okay, that was a bummer, but I can't change it. Now let's focus on what I can do going forward. However, sometimes those spilled milk moments land us in hot water.
That's when we're facing consequences, often due to our own actions or mistakes. It implies a sense of trouble or difficulty.
It's like saying, I messed up and now I'm dealing with the fallout in those situations. It's probably best not to spill the beans and make things worse.
Right. Spilling the beans is about revealing secrets, often unintentionally. It can lead to embarrassment or complications, especially if the information was sensitive or confidential.
It's like saying, oops, I wasn't supposed to say that.
Yeah.
You know? I find it fascinating how these food-related idioms can be so vivid and relatable, even if we haven't literally experienced those situations.
It's the power of imagery and shared cultural understanding. They tap into those universal experiences of overcommitting, having preferences, making mistakes, and facing consequences.
Okay, I'm ready to move on to our next course of idioms. Let's dive into the world of emotions and reactions. What do you think? Are you ready to explore this fascinating realm of language?
Absolutely. Emotions and reactions. This is where idioms truly shine, expressing complex feelings in a way that resonates across cultures.
It's like they provide a shortcut to understanding those nuanced emotions we all experience now when someone expresses an idea perfectly. We might say they hit the nail on the head.
Precisely, it's about accuracy, getting something exactly right. It's like that satisfying feeling when a puzzle piece clicks into place.
And speaking of things falling into place, sometimes what seems like a negative event turns out to be a blessing in disguise.
That's about finding the silver lining, the unexpected positive outcome.
Right.
It reminds us that things don't always go as planned, but sometimes those unexpected detours lead us to something better.
It's like saying, okay, this wasn't what I expected, but maybe it's working out for the best. But let's face it, some situations present us with a hard pill to swallow.
Ah, yes. Those difficult truths or realities that are tough to accept. It's that moment when we have to confront something unpleasant.
Right.
Or acknowledge a mistake.
It's like saying, this is hard to hear, but I need to accept it. And sometimes that acceptance comes with a side of nervousness or hesitation, those cold feet moments.
Those feelings are so relatable. It's that feeling of doubt or anxiety before a big event or decision. We've all been there, haven't we?
Absolutely. It's like that internal battle between excitement and fear. But in those moments of uncertainty, it's important to remember to keep your chin up.
That's about staying positive and resilient in the face of challenges. It's a reminder to focus on what we can control and to keep moving forward.
It's like saying, this is tough, but I'm not giving up.
Yeah.
You know what I find fascinating about these emotion-related idioms is how they capture those universal human experiences we all go through.
Exactly. They provide a shared language for expressing those ups and downs of life, those moments of joy, disappointment, hesitation, and resilience.
Okay, I'm feeling energized and ready to take action. Let's move on to those idioms that focus on action and decision-making. What do you think ready to delve into this next category?
Ready when you are. Let's explore those phrases that capture the essence of initiative, choice, and commitment. And speaking of commitment, going the extra mile is a great place to start.
It's about exceeding expectations, putting in that extra effort to achieve something truly remarkable. It's that willingness to go above and beyond what's required.
Exactly. It's like saying, I'm not just going to meet the bare minimum, I'm going to strive for excellence. And then there's the phenomenon of jumping on the bandwagon,
Yeah.
which reflects how trends and ideas spread.
It's about joining a popular movement or trend, often with a sense of enthusiasm and excitement.
Right. It's like saying, this seems interesting, count me in. But sometimes the big approach is to play it by ear.
That's about being flexible, adapting to circumstances as they unfold. It's about embracing spontaneity and being open to change.
It's like saying, let's see what happens and make decisions as we go. But even with the best intentions, sometimes we have to acknowledge when it's time to throw in the towel.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
But it's about recognizing when to stop pursuing something that's not working. It's about accepting defeat and moving on.
It's like saying, I've given it my best shot, but it's time to let go. And then there are those situations where the ball is in your court.
That's about passing the responsibility for decision-making to someone else. It's about acknowledging their agency and waiting for their response.
It's like saying, okay, I've done my part, now it's your turn to make a move. I think these action and decision-making idioms are so valuable because they provide a framework for navigating those pivotal moments in life.
They do. They help us understand the dynamics of commitment, flexibility, surrender, and responsibility.
Yeah.
And I think they can make us feel more confident and articulate when facing those moments of choice.
Absolutely. They give us the language to express our intentions, to navigate uncertainty, and to respond to changing circumstances. Now, how about we shift our focus to those idioms that help us understand the complexities of conversations and relationships, ready to delve into the realm of social dynamics?
Absolutely. This is where things get really interesting. I love how idioms can help us decipher those subtle cues and unspoken rules of social interaction. And what better way to start than with a penny for your thoughts?
It's a gentle invitation to share what's on your mind, showing genuine interest in the other person's perspective. It's like saying, I'm curious about what you're thinking. And then there are those situations where the ball is in your court.
That's about passing the responsibility for decision-making to someone else. It's about acknowledging their agency and waiting for their response.
It's like saying, okay, I've done my part now, it's your turn to make a move. I think these action and decision-making idioms are so valuable because they provide a framework for navigating those pivotal moments in life.
They do. They help us understand the dynamics of commitment, flexibility, surrender, and responsibility. And I think they can make us feel more confident and articulate when facing those moments of choice.
Absolutely. They give us the language to express our intentions, to navigate uncertainty, and to respond to changing circumstances. All right. How about we shift our focus to those idioms that help us understand the complexities of conversations and relationships, ready to delve into the realm of social dynamics?
Absolutely. This is where things get really interesting. I love how idioms can help us decipher those subtle cues and unspoken rules of social interaction. And what better way to start than with a penny for your thoughts?
It's a gentle invitation to share what's on your mind, showing genuine interest in the other person's perspective. It's like saying, I'm curious about what you're thinking.
And sometimes it's necessary to keep an eye on something or someone, especially if there's a sense of concern or potential risk.
It's about being observant, paying attention to details and potential changes that can apply to situations or relationships, even our own goals and aspirations.
Right. It's like saying, let's stay vigilant and aware of what's happening. But sometimes, despite our best efforts, we find ourselves barking up the wrong tree.
That's about being mistaken pursuing a line of thought or action that leads to a dead end. It's about realizing we've made a wrong assumption or misjudged a situation.
It's like saying, oops, I was wrong about that. But even when we make mistakes, it's comforting to know that we're all in the same boat.
That's about shared experiences facing similar challenges or circumstances. It reminds us that we're not alone in our struggles.
It's like saying we're in this together, and sometimes it's necessary to acknowledge that past conflicts or issues are water under the bridge.
That's about letting go of past grievances, choosing to move forward without holding on to resentment or anger.
It's like saying, that was then, this is now. It's about forgiveness and reconciliation. I find these conversation and relationship idioms to be incredibly helpful in navigating those sometimes tricky waters of social interaction.
Me too. They provide insights into social dynamics, helping us understand how to express interest, show concern, navigate disagreements, and ultimately build stronger connections with others.
All right, as our metaphorical day winds down, let's explore some idioms related to evenings and relaxation. What have we got?
Ah, yes. Those phrases that capture the essence of winding down and finding respite, call it a night, is a perfect example. It signifies the decision to end an activity and rest.
It's like saying, okay, I'm done for today, time to recharge. And sometimes before we rest, we need to wipe the slate clean. Metaphorically speaking, of course.
That's about starting fresh, forgiving ourselves or others for past mistakes and embracing new beginnings. It's that feeling of letting go of burdens and stepping into a new day with a renewed sense of hope.
It's like saying, okay, let's forget about what happened and start over. But of course, before we start over, we have to acknowledge those moments when time flies, when you're having fun.
That captures that feeling of being so engrossed in something enjoyable that we lose track of time. It's a reminder to savor those moments of joy and to embrace activities that make us feel fully alive.
It's like saying, wow, I can't believe how quickly the time has passed. It often happens when we're engaged in something we love, whether it's spending time with loved ones pursuing a hobby or simply being present in the moment.
It does. It's a reminder to cherish those moments and to prioritize activities that bring us joy and fulfillment.
Okay, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this section. What do you think? Are you ready for our final round of idioms?
Ready and excited. It's amazing how much ground we've covered exploring the nuances of these everyday expressions.
Absolutely. Okay, so for our final act, let's delve into those idioms that help us talk about time and change. What do you have in store for us?
Well, let's start with a phrase that evokes a sense of nostalgia. That was a lifetime ago. It emphasizes how distant a past event feels, as if it belongs to a different era.
It's like saying, wow, so much has happened since then. It feels like a completely different life. It really captures that feeling of time slipping away and how experiences shape our perception of the past.
It does, and sometimes we encounter situations where everything seems to shift dramatically, like it's a whole new ball game.
That's a great one for describing those major life changes that require us to adapt and learn new rules, whether it's a new job, a new relationship, or even a new phase of life. It's like saying, everything's different now. I need a new approach.
Exactly. But even when things change drastically, it's important to keep your eye on the prize, to stay focused on our goals despite the inevitable challenges and distractions that come our way.
It's about maintaining that sense of purpose and motivation, reminding ourselves why we started this journey in the first place. It's like saying, I won't let setbacks deter me. I'm going to achieve what I set out to do. It's a powerful reminder to stay resilient and committed, wouldn't you say?
I agree. And sometimes when we're striving towards those big goals, we need to remember that Rome wasn't built in a day. It's a call for patience and persistence, acknowledging that meaningful progress takes time and effort.
It's like saying it's okay if things don't happen overnight. I'm in this for the long haul. It's about trusting the process and celebrating those small victories along the way.
Right.
And speaking of time, there's a timeless truth in the saying, time heals all wounds.
That speaks to the restorative power of time, its ability to soften the sharp edges of pain and heartache. It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, things will eventually get better.
It's like saying this hurts now, but I know that with time, the pain will ease. It's a message of hope and resilience.
It is. And looking back on all the idioms we've explored today, I'm struck by how much they reveal about the human experience. They capture our joys and sorrows, our triumphs and setbacks, our hopes and fears.
They provide this incredible insight into how we perceive the world, how we relate to each other, and how we navigate the complexities of life. It's like each idiom is a tiny window into the human heart, revealing our shared vulnerabilities and our enduring strength.
What's fascinating is how these phrases, often passed down through generations, continue to resonate with us today. They connect us to our shared cultural heritage and remind us that we're not alone in our experiences.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to encourage our listener to keep exploring the world of idioms. Don't be afraid to use them in your conversations, to experiment, and to have fun with language.
Embrace the challenge, and you'll be amazed at how much richer your communication becomes. It's like adding vibrant colors to a painting, bringing depth and texture to your expression.
And remember, language learning is an ongoing journey. There's always something new to discover, some hidden gem waiting to be unearthed. So keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those conversations flowing.
Until next time, happy language learning.